across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Top of the morning. Should we do this? Come on, you know you want it. Happy Saturday, one and all. I am Mark Dolan. This is not a drill. Welcome to Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense. And your weekend starts here. So get the kettle on, because we've got work to do. The monster manipulator, Southport triple murder, Axel Rudakubana, stands accused of manipulating and lying to officials in order to get a move from prison to a comfortable psychiatric hospital. Is this yet another example of wokery in our public institutions and pathological sympathy for some of Britain's worst criminals? Well-meaning social workers and psychotherapists, hand-wringing nurses who allow one of the worst monsters in our history to leave prison, where he's been sentenced to over 50 years, and move to a comfortable psychiatric hospital. What the hell is going on? Am I missing something here? Well, Nigel Farage is not. He's the leader of Reform UK. The polls suggest he'll be our next Prime Minister, unless Labour decide to go for yet another super sub at some point. And he said this decision must be reversed. Axel Rudakubana, the man that murdered 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class, moved from a high-security prison, jail, punishment, to a cushy psychiatric hospital where they've got a clay and pottery room. They've got flat-screen tellies. What are we going to do? My question to you this morning is a simple one. I'm not sure this guy should be on the planet. He's one of the worst murderers in the history of this country. So at 6:04 on a Saturday morning, what do you think? Should we bring back the death penalty? Should somebody like Axel Rudakubana have received the death penalty? 03444991000. And the bad headlines keep coming. We could easily, could we not, executive producer Dean Spencer, have done 2 big stories today. Got Rudakubana moved to a cushy psychiatric wing. But it gets worse, because it's now being reported that the Iranian regime, the most wicked regime since the Nazi regime in the 1930s, is reportedly using illegal immigration and, yes, the boats on the channel to get agents into the UK. You heard me right. This is a regime that wishes the death of the West, that calls America the great Satan, calls us the little Satan. They are using the boats, reportedly, and illegal immigration to get agents into Britain. When are they going to stop the boats? When? How much more do we need to hear about this extraordinary assault on our land borders? We know that illegal immigration is an economic catastrophe. 80 to 90% of these people stay forever. We don't know who they are. They discard their documents and mobile phones in the sea. Some of them will have terror links. Some of them will have a criminal record. Some of them will be guilty of egregious crimes against women. Many will have a different attitude to women because they come from Afghanistan and Syria, which is an entirely different culture to ours. And let me tell you, it's not woke. It's not very feminist either. So now we're hearing that the Iranian regime, Iran, is using the boats to get agents into the UK. What will they be doing when they're here? Are they going to open an ice cream shop, Dean Spencer? Or maybe like a little cookie outlet? Wake up! Sorry, folks, I'm really angry this morning. How long have we been talking about the boats and illegal immigration? By the way, this is just the menu. The show hasn't even started yet. That's how hot we are. That is how big this show is now, George. This is just the menu, and we haven't even started yet. It's like, you know when you watch a James Bond movie, and you've not even had the opening credits yet, but there's been explosions, a car chase. But I'm serious about this. Iran are using illegal immigration, the boats, to get agents into the UK, and they're not going to open an ice cream shop selling bloody vanilla ice cream and mango and all that crap. By the way, I'm not fussed about these unusual flavours. I'm sick of all of that stracciatella rubbish and your raspberry sorbet. Do me a favour. I'm English. Give me vanilla now. English ice cream for English people. With your bloody Nutella. Folks, Iran are using illegal immigration to breach our border. They're going to have agents here who are not going to open an ice cream shop or a flower stall. They're going to seek to plan harm on the United Kingdom and the British people. Don't forget, earlier in the week, they said they would strike an airbase here. So what is the plan? When are we going to stop the boats? They could easily plan a terror attack, and they will have been able to do so thanks to our woke open borders. Close the border, stop the boats, and someone like Axel Rudakubana, lethal injection, yes please. I'll do it on live TV. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Luke is directing our TV output this morning. He's doing a great job. He's a boy wonder. At some point, when the moment is right, we will get him on the minimum wage. Dean Spencer, the genius behind Talk Breakfast, is at the helm. And he's planning a big weekend. We've got some massive guests. And I'm delighted to say, whilst negotiations continue for the services of engineer Dave and my showdown talks with TalkSport, Adrian Durham, Jeff Stelling and Ray Parler, we're going to sort that out over drinks. George is pressing the buttons. He's our lead engineer. I think that might be the longest menu in history. It's coming up to 9 minutes past, but I think you'll agree it's important. Two questions. One, should we bring back the death penalty for people like Axel Rudakubana? And also, when are we going to stop the boats? Is the knowledge now that terrorists are entering the country, state-sponsored terrorists are coming into Britain, is that the point where we decide to stop the bloody boats? 10 minutes past 6, this is Talk, Let's Talk. Oh, my goodness, I need a lie down after that. Where to start, folks? I mean, in this job that I've got, sometimes people think, oh, do you really think those things? And do you pretend to be angry? And is it an act? Is it performative? I also sometimes get, certainly over the years, what happened to Mark? What happened to Mark? Have you seen Mark lately? What happened to Mark? I'll tell you what happened to Mark. I woke up. We had the COVID-19 pandemic with the ridiculous lockdowns, which destroyed the country, created a waiting list on the NHS of 8 million people for a mild disease that killed almost, well, basically a fraction of the population. It was a incredibly not massively fatal illness. Nasty. It took too many lives. Of course it did. But we had the COVID overreaction, which killed the economy and destroyed lives and created a mental health tsunami. And that's why we got 2 trillion quid's worth of debt. And I sat here in this studio and I said, don't do the lockdowns. Protect people who may be at risk from COVID and let everyone else get on with their lives, which is what they did, not just in Sweden, which has the lowest excess deaths in the whole of Europe. So they won that argument. But Florida and Texas, who didn't do the pandemic. Florida and Texas just had ball games and concerts and cafes and people in pickup trucks getting their coffee, and they just didn't do COVID. Same outcomes as California and New York, who were locked down for 2.5 years. Well, during that time, I called out the madness of lockdowns. What a stupid idea. Basically, you stay home all day, and then you go to Tesco for an hour once a day, and that's going to stop COVID, make it make sense. So COVID was the thing. And we're like, what happened to Mark? Have you seen it? Well, I was right. I was right about COVID. I was right. I was right about the masks. I was right that vaccines should have been voluntary and take it if you feel you need it, but the healthy didn't need it. I was right. Then we get on to the cult of welfareism, right? You've got more money going out on payouts to many people who could work. It's a bigger number now. The cost of welfare is higher than the income tax receipts of this country. The whole of income tax is a smaller number than the welfare bill, all right? I called that out. We live beyond our means. That's not going to work. What happened to Mark? Well, I woke up. We live beyond our means. The welfare is bigger than the income tax, right? That's a freak show. And I use this platform to call it out. What happened to Mark? Environmentalism. I've always wanted an energy mix. I've always wanted solar panels and the windmills. I've always wanted them. I wanted them in the 90s. Who doesn't like a solar panel? I had a solar panel on my calculator at school, the Casio. And it was quite fun. You'd hold your finger over it and then it would switch off. So I believe in solar technology. But in the old days, in the 90s, when we were all normal, we believed in an energy mix. We had fossil fuels, which we knew were going to run out eventually, windmills, solar panels, regenerative energy, and nuclear. Well, that's controversial. That's far right. Wanting an energy mix is far right. Well, I woke up on environmentalism, right? Net zero, socialist experiment, very much empowering China, makes them rich because they make all the solar panels. Those things have a shelf life of 10 years. Then they go into basically landfill, those solar panels, wreaking enormous environmental damage. Electric cars full of lithium-ion batteries. You need slaves to make the batteries because they have to go in and, you know, stand in SHIT for 2 hours, 12 hours a day, collecting the rare earth minerals. Some of them teenagers, teenage slave labour. So I woke up about that. By the way, I didn't say I woke up. I was always awake about that stuff. And then we get to illegal immigration. And again, how can it be controversial to object to up to 1,000 undocumented men coming into the country on an almost daily basis, discarding their documents in the sea? And now it's reported. I mean, we knew that some might have terror links. The authorities have been clear about that for a long time. Now we're hearing that Iranian agents are coming via small boats on the channel. When are we going to stop the boats? When? So what happened to Mark? He woke up. What happened to Mark? He was right. I was right. Tell me if I'm wrong. Call me. You must admit, folks, you must admit I'm the most open presenter on Talk. Dean, I'm not the best, right? That could well be Julia or Peter or Kev or Ian or Jezza. So I'm not saying I'm the best. I think I'm the most open. So in other words, if you disagree with me, you give me a call, you know you're going to get a fair hearing. You won't be interrupted. And I will listen and engage with your arguments. But I think I was right. 0344 499 1000. Should we have the death penalty for people like Axel Rudakubana, who, if you're joining us, is moving from a psychiatric, from a tough prison to a psychiatric hospital? And when are we going to stop the boats? What is the trigger point where the authorities wake up and think maybe we should stop the boats? Now that it's reported that Iran are sending agents via small boats into the country, not to open a cake shop with Bakewell slices and all that stuff, but to damage and harm our people. Chloe, the fabulous Chloe Dobbs, is with me in the studio. Broadcaster, entertainer and entrepreneur. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm angry this morning.
Well, you seem pretty chirpy there, talking about how you've had your life switched around, you've changed all your views, you're a new man.
What happened to Mark?
I'm glad to hear that you've changed away from wokery and you've seen the light.
Well,
but it's really good that you're flexible-minded, and you are someone that's hard to put into a box politically. So, a lot of things.
To hear it.
Some people you can predict exactly what their view is going to be on everything. But with you, It's not the case.
But my issue is that I'm so happy for people to call the show and say, no, you're wrong about net zero, or you're wrong about the boats, we should have legal routes and we should encourage it and all of that rubbish. Or, you know, that the welfare bill is sustainable and it's good, that the bill for welfare is higher than the income tax take. I'm happy to debate these issues.
Yeah, and the reality is that we're living in a world now where so many people are terrified of hearing the opposite point of view. And it's really sad because, you know, that's how you move towards truth. That's how you grow as a person. That's how you, you know, get a better understanding of all the different issues. Is you gain the most by talking to the people you disagree with, right? But a lot of these people on the left, you know, they want everyone to be cancelled and imprisoned and taken off the internet if they, you know, speak an opinion that they disagree with.
Well,
and
that's right.
It's really sad.
And what they don't want you to do is say true things out loud.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want you...
If it goes against their worldview, they're not interested.
100%. We'll come to Rudakubana in a moment, but they don't want you going on the radio or on the TV and saying that it's being reported now that Iran, which is the most wicked regime since the Third Reich, is using small boats to get agents into the UK. And as I cannot stress enough this morning, they're not going to be opening an ice cream parlour when they're here.
No, but there are loons.
What are they going to do?
There are loons on the left who will believe that. That's the reality. The echo chamber that they have lived in, especially with social media where they're just fed everything that they agree with.
Correct.
They've gone down a path so extreme that so many of these people on the left support a regime which, as you pointed out, is the most wicked regime since the Nazis. I mean, we've got people out on the streets holding, you know, the flag of the Iranian regime, supporting them, saying, aren't they such a wonderful regime? And you know, Israel are the evil ones. And I'm not going to pretend that Israel's absolutely perfect, but for example, you know, in Gaza, these people they will not stop talking about the, you know, roughly 40 or 50,000 people that have died in Gaza. Terrible, right?
Of course.
But completely silent on the fact that Iran has, you know, killed the same number of people in the space of a couple of weeks. And they're not just turning a blind eye to it, they're actively supporting this regime. Like, they're the good guys because they're not Israel.
Well,
like, you are literally supporting people who want Jews completely wiped off the face of the earth. And the West wiped off the face of the earth.
We're the little Satan. Is this the same Iranian regime which murdered a woman for not covering her head?
Yeah, I'm sure that
doesn't sound very nice.
They murdered many women. Then they have a.
Are they not woke? I'm so confused.
They have a practice of shooting women in the eye if they don't cover their head. There are a load of women who've got one eye stitched up because they've been shot in the eye for not covering their hair. That is who these people are protecting.
And
most of these people are so-called feminists. Most of these people are, you know, also obsessed with trans rights, for example. Imagine going and being trans in one of these countries like Iran or Gaza. Good luck with that. But they are so deluded. But if they were open-minded and they actually listened and were able to sit, these people wouldn't be able to sit down and just have a conversation with us. And I want them to come and sit down and have a conversation with us.
They won't.
As frustrating as it might be. But if they did, they might actually realise, like, oh gosh, these people actually are bad guys.
When you watch those viral videos of journalists on the street talking to the radical lefties, the ultra-progressive wokies,
they're so indoctrinated.
Normally, yeah, what happens is that they always walk away.
Yeah.
Two things happen. They either shout at you, abuse and labels, or they storm off. And they go, I'm not having this conversation. And why? Well, because they can't have facts, because it's like, you know, it's only going to, as you say, burst their bubble. Their mad bubble in which they accept illegal immigration, which is now being reported this morning, Chloe, is being used by the Iranian regime to get agents. Just before we get to the break and on to Rudakubana, who I'm quite happy to have a televised injection, and I'll do it. I'll host the show. Okay.
I'm sure that will get great views.
I'll host it. And Dean will produce it. Dean, would you be willing to executive produce a TV show called Bye Bye Axel? OK? We'll run it on Channel 4 as well, because I used to work there.
OK.
I'm not even joking. We should have the death penalty for these people. But
I think a lot of people have turned to that opinion after the Southport killings.
To help us just navigate this story, Iranian regime using the boats to get people into the UK. Just for our audience, because you're hyper-educated, super knowledgeable, up to speed on all these things. Can you give us a flavour of what the Iranian regime may be doing with these agents? What might their work be in the UK if they're coming on small boats sponsored by the state of Iran?
Well, plotting terror attacks. And we've had, Iran have admitted, this has come out not just because some people were caught and the UK found out that they were trying to come here. An Iranian official has spoken to the press and boasted about the fact that they're doing this. And what he said was, we don't need to send a missile all the way to Britain in order to harm you. It's easy for us to wreak havoc in your country and cause harm to your people, because we'll just send these agents into our country and they can plan attacks there. So, and we've had, I think a lot of people are not taking the terror threat seriously, because although we've had some terror attacks, some small-scale terror attacks, so many of them have been foiled. If those had happened, people would see the level of the threat. I'm not saying they should have happened, right? But we've had, at least 20 Iranian terror attacks foiled by our security services. Thank goodness we've got those great security services. But if they keep on planning attacks, it's only a matter of time before more and more of them start happening, and that is the reality. And they're also they're here operating as spies, for example, and there's really been a free pass for Iran to have some people coming on the boats, but also many of them are coming via legal flights in Europe.
They are.
Many of them are getting visas. A lot of these rich Iranian officials, they send their kids to come and study here, right? But they're actually coming over as spies, right? And Britain, we think, oh, how fantastic, we're giving these Iranians an opportunity to come and study in Britain. The soft touch approach has to end, else, people are going to die in this country.
Next up, folks, Axel Rudakubana, one of the worst murderers in the history of this country, responsible for the Southport triple murder of 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class, has convinced medics to move him from a high-security prison to a cushy mental health wing. Broadmoor, a psychiatric hospital with a very, very comfortable existence, very low population within that hospital, lots of space, lots of TVs, lots of relaxing areas, an area to learn pottery, a library, you name it. Rudakubana, one of the worst monsters in the history of this country, is staying at a cushy psychiatric hospital. Farage says it should be reversed. What do you think? Is that an argument for the death penalty? 6:24, this is Talk Breakfast.
Our 5th Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, folks, you're listening to Talk Breakfast. It is Saturday morning. I was so angry about the news, the reported news that the Iranian regime is using the small boats in the Channel to get agents in the UK, presumably to plot terror attacks against our own people. I was so angry about that. So angry that Axel Rudakubana, the triple Southport murderer, has moved from a prison to a comfortable psychiatric hospital that I forgot to do the papers. So let's quickly have them right now. And this from the Times. And here we go again. It's just, I promise you, you couldn't make it up. Front page of the Times. Net zero risks blackouts. Whistleblower says the rise of wind and solar energy has officials gauging supply and demand flying blind. What a badly written headline. Should we start again with that? I'll just give you the story. Britain's race to net zero will leave the country at greater risk of blackouts and higher electricity bills, a confidential report commissioned by the National Grid operator has warned. The report, shown to the Times by a whistleblower, reveals that the National Energy System operator cannot accurately model the modern power system as the government pursues a drive towards renewable energy resources. OK, so basically what they're saying is the net zero policies are going to cause blackouts and they are going to impact the energy supply. Let me tell you, that's a problem for the economy. It's a problem for industry because they're trying to make things. And it's also a problem for national security because we can't defend ourselves if we don't have any blinking electricity. I'm so sorry, folks. I was in a good mood when I came here this morning. But then I found out that even the Times are admitting that net zero has backfired horribly, that Axel Rudakubana is going to a comfortable mental hospital, which is basically being completely let off, and that Iran is using the small boats to get terrorists into the UK. So my anger is not confected. I'll take some calls in a moment. Daily Mail, fathers driven to suicide by child support scandal. Appalling blunders by government-run agency wrecking lives of honest parents. That sounds awful. We'll look at that shortly. And Burnham takes jet to number 10 North. As I predicted, this ridiculous theatre of a office in number 10 in the North is going to lead to civil servants and politicians permanently on trains and in helicopters and on aeroplanes travelling up to this fiasco of a northern office. It doesn't matter where your office is. Dean Spencer, your office can be in Timbuktu. You can cut taxes from there. Your office can be in Timbuktu and you can scrap the net zero target because, as the Times are revealing, it's a complete joke, white elephant project. You can be in an office in Timbuktu and tear up the ECHR, the Refugee Convention and the Human Rights Act in order to stop the boats and stop Iranian terrorists. The Daily Telegraph, Iran agents sneak in as channel migrants. Tehran regime helps asylum seekers cross in return for favour when they are settled. That favour will be to plot terror attacks at football stadia in this country, on public transport, in shopping centres, you name it. The Sun, 2 years on, new agony for Southport families. Killer cons his way to cushy life. Fury at Broadmoor. Switch, Southport monster Axel Rudakubana may have conned his way from jail to a cushy psychiatric hospital, according to the furious families of the three young victims. Have they not suffered enough? The families of Bebe, Elsie Dot and Alice, who were snatched from them by this evil monster. Daily Express, killer of our girls is playing the system. That's the same story there. Corrie Tracy, I need a miracle. Very, very sad news. Former Coronation Street star Tracy Shaw is battling cancer, and we are obviously conveying our good wishes and saying our prayers for that wonderful actress, that lovely lady, in her cancer battle, which is proving to be very difficult at the moment. May God bless her. The Daily Mirror, heatwave hell, summer of chaos. The left-wing press just do my head in. Thousands queue for Europe getaways as wildfires force Brits to flee holiday resorts. It's not a particularly hot summer, did you know that? But the establishment press are keen to pursue this narrative that we're basically, the planet Earth would have blown up by next Tuesday. Did you know that there are 80% fewer forest fires than there were 100 years ago? Live in the studio, the amazing Chloe Dobbs. Chloe, your reaction to the news that Axel Rudakubana, a man that killed 3 little girls in cold blood, has been moved from a tough prison to a very comfortable mental health hospital, which doesn't feel like a prison at all.
Oh, I'm absolutely seething. I'm not going to pretend that mental hospitals are, some kind of Disneyland, because you are surrounded by other nutters, and that tends to drive you even more insane. But compared to the prison that he was in, we're talking about the prison that's full of Islamist terrorists and has pretty harsh conditions where you barely leave your cell. They've got vermin in the kitchens. Sounds horrible, and he deserves that. He deserves that. He deserves to pay the price for his actions. But we've come up with, you speak about these, kind counsellors and psychiatrists,
hand-wringing nurses.
Yeah, they want to forgive anyone who has committed a crime whilst mentally unwell. But what I say to that is, pretty much anyone who commits a serious crime is mentally unwell. Find me one murderer that is sane, okay? All murderers are insane, right? If you're going to set the standard here with Axel Rudakubana, that if you're mentally unwell, you don't have to pay the price for murder, then that's going to be the case for everybody. And this comes after, just a couple of days ago, we had another story. I don't know if you remember this. There was a Somali migrant who went on a stabbing spree in a market in London.
Sounds very enriching.
He killed one guy. 2 others were stabbed but survived, right? He has been sentenced to 0 days behind bars. You know why? Because he's mentally unwell, so they've decided he's going to go to a mental hospital instead. He's also not been found guilty of murder either because he was mentally unwell. They're considering it as manslaughter instead because you clearly didn't kill the person on purpose if you were mentally unwell. That is the way things are going. I mean, with everything, with all the early release of prisoners that we've been talking about, Andrew Harper's killers potentially being let out early, it just feels like we live in a society now where there are no serious consequences for the most egregious crimes. We've had so many, grooming gang ringleaders and perpetrators who either haven't been convicted at all, or when they do, they just get a couple years sentence and then they're back in their community, welcome with open arms for doing one of the most horrific crimes imaginable. We've really got soft-touch justice in this country.
We do, and the early prison release plan, now Burnham has paused that, but that problem's not going to go away.
Yeah,
one of the reasons, by the way,
it's pause. It's not. It's not end.
And
it's
actually,
pause.
we can't blame Burnham for that because he, notwithstanding that he's a performative con man, notwithstanding that, and I think that will be borne out in time. But obviously, he's only just become Prime Minister. I'm not even. You won't believe this. I'm not even going to blame Labour, because one of the main reasons we don't have enough prisons is because of that wonderful pandemic. Because that's when we shut down the country and the then Conservative government had earmarked some very, very big prison building projects, all of which were put on ice because of COVID. So that is an actual fact, and that's an issue with capacity. They're trying to catch that up now. But I don't know about you. I want to live in a very law and order country. I'd like Britain to be more like Singapore, because in Singapore there's no crime. And the reason why
is because... And in Singapore, you face pretty tough consequences if you break into the country illegally.
Oh, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
But people are afraid to shoplift or even pickpocket in Singapore because the criminal justice system is so egregious and the prisons are so unpleasant. And you can relax in Singapore. Same with Dubai. You can leave your mobile phone on a park bench, come back 2 hours later, it'll still be there. And I can tell you one particular area where the authorities in the Emirates don't take any nonsense, and that is any crime towards a woman is considered a major aggravating factor. If you so much as lay a finger on a woman in Dubai, good luck.
Yeah, and I mean, just another story that we've also had over the past couple of days is this young girl, Cleo. She was knocked out by an Eritrean migrant who was staying at the Britannia Hotel in Bournemouth. she rejected his advances, told him to F off, and he knocked her stone cold out.
Could have killed her.
And how long do you think he's got on his sentence?
I would have thought, I mean, that to me sounds like, I'd say that's a 4-year jail term.
6 months.
Right.
6 months.
Would that be half the length of time that Lucy Connolly spent in prison?
Well, she had a
posting on
31-month
X?
sentence, and if this guy ends up out, what, in half of the time, I mean, he's just got to go in there, blink, and he'll be out again. And that guy also, he also assaulted a Subway worker. He went into Subway. He spat on and kicked the manager there.
Apparently, this was in Bournemouth.
Yeah, he then ran off before the police arrived, and then turned up at the shop a few hours later, dressed as a Just Eat driver, to pick up his delivery, which of course he's doing as illegal work. This is a kind of enriching behaviour that we've got in this country. We just do not give people harsh enough consequences for their crimes. 6 months for knocking a woman out. And of course, we've spoken about Axel Rudakubana. We've spoken about the Somali migrant who murdered someone and has got no days in prison. I mean, it's got to end. And you talk about whether it's Burnham's fault or not. I mean, he's just walked through the door.
Correct.
But yes, the Tories allowed the prisons to crumble and didn't build any spaces. But what the Tories did show us in COVID is how quickly you can build things when it is what you consider an emergency. All those Nightingale hospitals that they were able to build like that, which they didn't even bother using, by the way, and we lost a load of money on. Why can't you do the same for prison spaces? There are lots of things that we can do. Also, foreign offenders. Why not get way tougher about kicking all the foreign offenders out of prison? We've got a foreign offenders population in prison of, I think, of about 12,000.
It is, yeah.
Get rid of those. And you don't have to release all these prisoners. Also, another thing that you could do is, so most of the women that are in prison are in there for way more low-level crimes than the men who are in prison. So you could take some of the female prisons and turn them into men's prisons, right? Let out the female offenders who are in for far more low-level crimes, rather than letting out killers and rapists from the male prisons, and make space there. There are lots of things you can do, but Labour don't really seem to have the will to do it. They could, if they treat it just like with the boats, same for the prisons. If they treated it like an emergency, they could get something done, I promise you.
Should we bring back the death penalty for people like Axel Rudakubana so that he can't play games with the authorities and con his way, reportedly, into a psychiatric hospital, which is this morning's breaking news? What do you think? Would you bring back the death penalty? And when are we going to stop the boats? Will we ever stop the boats? On the morning that it's been reported, the Iranian regime is using the channel to get agents into Britain, presumably to plot terror attacks. 6:39, more front pages next. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 6:40. Lovely to have you company. Listen, it's weekend breakfast. We're going to have some fun this morning. I am the personification of fun. Look at me, for God's sakes. But we have had a serious start to the show because of two really serious stories. Axel Rudakubana, who murdered 3 little girls in Southport, has conned his way into a psychiatric hospital, which, let me tell you, is not prison. They have space, they have a low population, they've got loads of staff around and plush facilities. OK, it's not the Dorchester, but it ain't a prison. And then the other story, Iran is reportedly using the small boats to get agents into the UK. When are we going to fix this? When are the authorities going to wake up? Jackie is in Oldham. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Mark. you are right to be angry. You are right about everything you've said this morning. And I wish that other people would get angry. But what we've got is that it's been done so gradually over a period of time, this dismantling of our country, the breaking of our country, that the bombardment of us every day from the media, this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong. And what it's induced is sort of apathy. It's induced hopelessness and powerlessness of the public because they don't know what's happening to the country. We've got politicians that are using Soviet tactics where they use truth inversion, where they will come out on telly and tell us, we've stopped the boats or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's not true. And they do it to confuse, to unsettle, and it makes us easier to control. And I am frightened to death of what is happening in this country. COVID started it. COVID was the test case to see how much we would tolerate.
Correct.
Authoritarian-wise, and we tolerated a hell of a lot. It scared a lot of people, and I fear that if we don't wake up and push back, our country is going right before our eyes.
I completely agree, Jackie. And you said two really powerful words among many powerful words, which was about the public being hopeless and powerless. And I think you're right. I might offer you a third word, which is fearful, right? Afraid to speak out. Jackie, a lot of people are awake, but they're self-censoring. They're afraid.
Yes. Yes. And the thing is that we either, we either go down the path where we're living in an authoritarian country, where we cannot challenge things, where we have to be silent, or we come together and we all push back and say no.
Yeah.
This country does not belong to politicians. It belongs to the British people, and we don't accept what you are doing to this country. And I think we've got to do it. We've got to do it for our children, our grandchildren, and for the country that we love. It's got to be done, Mark. And never mind if you're fearful, never mind if things feel hopeless. You've got to find the courage from within and speak out and say, no, we do not accept this, the direction this country is going in.
Jackie, stay with us. You're speaking very well this morning. Live in the studio with me, Jackie, is Chloe Dobbs, broadcaster. Your reaction to what Jackie's had to say?
I think brilliantly articulated by Jackie there. I think that there's a lot in there to unpack. I think, first of all, the thing that she's pointed out that infuriates me on a regular basis is the gaslighting from the government. You know, Jackie's pointed out this country is meant to be for us and run by us, the people. It's not the politicians' country. But you get the impression with politicians that they think that we're stupid plebs that don't understand what's going on and that they can lie to us and manipulate us and that we'll just go along with it. We've had, in Keir Starmer's premiership, they would always manipulate the figures to make it look like the country isn't in the mess that it's in. They would tell us, oh, we've deported this many tens of thousands of illegal migrants. We're stopping the boats. But we know, we're not stupid, we know that those people that they've deported are not people who have come on boats. We know that they're people like Vietnamese native workers who have overstayed their visas, who most people probably aren't really too concerned about them being in the country. It's things like that. It's things like manipulating the NHS waiting list figures to tell us, oh, yes, we know that you spent 12 hours in A&E yesterday, but look at our figures. It shows that we're getting it back on track and we've created all of these hospital appointments. They haven't.
Well,
they've just massaged the thing.
Reduced it. Let me. When I speak, you can. It's my show, so when I speak, you have to stop speaking. The way they got the waiting list down is by removing names from the waiting list. Right. That's not dealing with the waiting list. Getting Tipex out.
Exactly. They removed like dead people's names from the waiting list who were sitting there many years after they had perished. But they think that we're stupid enough to fall for it, but we're not. And we do have to call it out. We do have to call a spade when they try to gaslight us. But as you've pointed out, many people are just too scared to do so. And as Jackie is right to say, we need to find the courage to actually come together. And you do have safety in numbers. When you're the first person to come out of the blocks and speak the truth, you get a heck of a lot of hate, a heck of a lot of backlash. And the reality for many people is that even if they want to speak the truth, they will lose their jobs if they do. We're very lucky that we do this for work and we can get away with it, right? But most people in normal jobs, they are so scared to put their head above the parapet, even if that just means saying in the workplace that you don't want to call some bloke in a frock a she, right? Let alone go into your views on the boats. That could be it for you, and you could lose your livelihood, your ability to pay your rent, put food on the table for your family. So there are serious consequences. Even if technically we legally have the freedom to say stop the boats, for many people in the workplace, they don't really have the freedom at all.
Most definitely. And Jackie, interesting what Chloe had to say there. I completely agree. You used another expression earlier, which was about people waking up. And Jackie, we know how silent many on the left have been about illegal immigration. I think, Jackie, they've got a sort of pathological, sick empathy for these people. But do you not think that the news that Iran are using the boats to get agents into the UK, would that be the moment where people wake up? Is that enough to wake people up?
I think that when you look back, I think that people's tolerance goes so far. When digital ID was mentioned, there was a massive pushback of people coming together. We can do it. We can come together and let the government know, no, this is not acceptable. And governments have changed course about things in the past. This is just abhorrent that we've got agents coming into the country that will put citizens at risk. If the government won't stop that, what is the point of government?
Well, a brilliant call, Jackie. I'm so grateful that you've joined us. Do join me again soon. And Jackie, you and I and Chloe have got a job, which is to wake people up. If the news that this evil regime of Iran is using small boats to get agents into the UK, if that's not enough to wake you up and make you realise that those boats have got to stop under any circumstances, then I think nothing will. Lots more to come. More front pages at 6:49. Talk Breakfast.
Fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Good morning, Mark, and good morning, Chloe. Jackie, your caller, is so right. I've said all along the immigrants were coming in for a reason. Good morning, Mark and Chloe, says Chris in Somerset. I'm afraid that I'm becoming more and more infuriated with the continuing references to our murderous inmates being either insane or mentally and psychologically unwell, and the word evil seems to have been dropped from our collective vocabulary. Is this something to do with wokery? What a great text that chimes with what you were saying. Is there a culture within our prison service now, criminal justice system, this automatic sympathy for the perpetrator?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you'd have to be on the ground and speak to the staff to see exactly what is going on. But my understanding is that one of the reasons why he has been moved to this cushy facility is because the prison staff has said that he's too mentally unwell for them to be able to safely constrain him in the prison. This also could be partly because the prison staff are scared of him, and it would be nice for them to be able to get rid of him and hand him over to someone else's responsibility. I mean, I do feel for prison guards because they've, especially in that prison, Belmarsh, they've got a pretty tough job. We've had all sorts of stories of, getting hold of kettles and then pouring boiling water over prison officers, or they're managing to sneak weapons in or create some sort of makeshift weapon. And especially when the prisons are as overrun as they are, and you're often there on shift as a prison guard with not enough backup around you if things kick off. I mean, those people don't get paid enough for the tough job that they have. So I do partly sympathise with them there, but I do think that there is this tendency towards excusing crimes on the basis of mental illness.
Well, I think you've absolutely nailed it, and I think that you're so right to highlight what a brilliant job the prison officers do, because you and I have both in the past been critical of the public sector to a certain degree. Gold-plated pensions. There's a lot of waste, isn't there, in the public sector, unlike the private sector, who have to worry about their bottom line. But people that go into prison to work every day, facing daily peril, mental and physical abuse, spat at, potential violence, not paid enough, they are true heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's happened in a lot of the prisons is that they've actually gotten rid of some of the more senior prison guards who are experienced enough to deal with people like Axel Rudakubana, because those people are on high salaries. So not only have you not got enough staff, but you've also got a bunch of kids basically running the show, a bunch of newly qualified prison guards who are young and don't really have the experience to run the show well. And so these places are absolute hell in some cases. I mean, it varies prison to prison, but you can see why Axel Rudakubana was so adamant to be moved to this mental hospital, because I'm sure it wasn't a nice environment at all for him or the prison guards in Belmarsh Prison.
Most definitely. Well, John is in Buckinghamshire and has joined the conversation. Good morning, John. You're live on Talk with Chloe Dobbs. How are you this morning, John?
Hello, Mark. Hello, Chloe. Mark, could I just tell you about the experience I've had with the psychiatry profession?
Yes.
I'm 69 now, but when I was 22 years old, I had a nervous breakdown because my friend was stabbed to death and murdered in London, and it affected me.
I'm so sorry, John.
Thanks, mate. Anyway, I was sent to the psychiatric services, and I explained to the doctor about my friend being murdered, the psychiatrist consultant, and I said, these people what kill people, they can't be normal, doctor. And to my shock horror, he turned around and he said they're normal.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
On my life, Mark, honestly, mate, I'm an old man now, I've got no reason to lie. So I said to him, if it's normal then, if you look at the criminal justice system, most people don't murder people. Very few people actually murder people. And like Chloe said earlier, the people that do murder people, they're dangerous. They are nutters, you hear me? And to
Correct.
be honest with you, Mark, a responsible position like a psychiatrist, he shouldn't be saying it's normal to kill people.
Well, you're absolutely right, John. So maybe this is cultural, that there's an attitude within the worlds of medicine and also within the criminal justice system and our police forces that they're so politically correct, they're so woke, that they somehow have sympathy for these bad people.
Exactly, mate. It's incredible. I nearly fell off the chair when he said to me, the people who killed my mate are normal. I said, how can you say that's normal? Most people, that is not normal in any shape or form, Mark. And the trouble is, Kubana has probably manipulated these psychiatrists and said, oh, this, that and the other. And they're, to be honest with you, Mark, it's a terrible thing to say, but these psychiatrists and that, they're sometimes on the side of the murderer.
Well, I mean, John, I really appreciate your call, and I'm really sorry for that loss that you suffered to your friend, and I'm sure you live with the trauma of that to this day. And you've been really articulate about what happened in your case. And that's a great question, Chloe. Was that medic right to say to John that the person that murdered his friend in cold blood was a normal person?
No, absolutely not. I mean, first of all, John, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened to your friend and what you had to go through. If you've got psychiatrists telling people that it's normal to kill people, well, don't be surprised if then some of the patients that you have go on and kill people. If you tell people that it's normal and it's not something that is, something that happens very rarely in cases of really acute mental illness, then, don't be surprised with the negative consequences. I do think that there is this tendency for them to pretend that something like murder is normal and that the few patients that they see, they only see a small number of the murderers, right? That the few ones that they see that are insane are the only ones that are insane, and that is the exception and not the norm. But every single person, as Don has pointed out, who is a murderer is a nutter. And we see it with not just murders, but we see it with rapists and paedophiles who are here in the country and should be deported, and we're using ECHR rules to say, oh, but their mental health might suffer if they have to go back to a horrid regime. And I'm like, I don't care about their mental health if they've murdered or raped someone.
Well, you're so right about that. Chloe killed it this morning. Amazing work. Come back and see us again soon. Elite level broadcaster and political commentator, it's Chloe Dobbs. A great message from Anna, who says, don't forget, Mark, to mention that the mental hospitals cost the taxpayer 300 grand a year per inmate. So you and I are paying for this. Lots more to come, including the fearless ex-cop, Peter Blexley, next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
3 minutes past 7, top of the morning. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. I hope you're well this morning. Perhaps you're still snuggling under the duvet. Maybe you're getting the kids ready for their swimming lessons. Perhaps you're at the tail end of a night shift, in which case I salute your contribution to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the great British economy. I've got a friend, he's actually my optician, he does my specs. It's not Lord Ali, by the way. Can you believe it? I pay for my own glasses. And his tradition, he gets up at 5 in the morning and he just takes his motorbike for a ride for about an hour. Every morning, he just rides around on his motorbike, goes and gets a cup of tea somewhere and comes home, and that's his ritual. What's your ritual on a Saturday morning? Why don't you let me know? Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Great moment of the day, isn't it, though, when you're up early on a Saturday, you've got the house to yourself, get that kettle on, ease yourself into the weekend. Anyway, 2 big shows today and 2 big stories on Talk Breakfast as we come on air. First up, the monster manipulator. Axel Rudakubana, the man who murdered 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport, stands accused of playing games, manipulating and lying to prison staff and doctors to secure a move to a comfortable psychiatric hospital. You heard me right. Axel Rudakubana has convinced staff to let him leave a high-security prison and be accommodated in the relative luxury of a psychiatric unit. Now, is this yet another example of wokery in our public institutions and a pathological sympathy for some of the worst criminals in the country? This is a man the authorities were warned about time and time again before the devastating triple murder that shocked Britain. So my question this morning is a simple one. You've got a monster like Rudakubana who has reportedly convinced staff to let him be moved to a hospital. Should people like that be subjected to the death penalty? Do we bring back the death penalty for the likes of Axel Rudakubana? 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. And another massive story this morning. It's being reported that the Iranian regime is using illegal immigration to get agents into the UK. You heard me right. The Iranian regime, the worst regime since Hitler's Third Reich, are using the small boats to get agents into Britain. If that's not enough to wake up the authorities, I don't know what is. Illegal immigration, the boats crisis, I've always said it, it's an economic, societal and national security emergency. And now we're hearing that Iran are using the small boats, using our open borders. And what are these folks, these agents, working on behalf of Iran? What will they do when they come to the UK, smuggled in on a small boat? They're not going to be opening an ice cream shop. They will be plotting harm against our country, planning terror attacks. So when are we going to stop the boats? Will we ever stop the boats? Is anyone going to stop the boats? 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. As the saying goes, let's talk. Delighted to say directing our TV output is the excellent Luke this morning. We've got the marvellous Tommy taking your calls. George is our lead engineer, and our big producer today is Dean Spencer, who, let me tell you, is coming in hot, as is the former top ex-cop and now broadcaster, and indeed a man that's been on tour with his amazing live show, Peter Blexley. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
lovely to have you on the show. Your reaction to the news that one of the worst murderers in the history of this country, Axel Rudakubana, a man that killed 3 little girls in cold blood in Southport, seems to have convinced staff and medics and psychiatrists to be moved from prison to a psychiatric hospital.
And let me just point out that this monster, Rudakubana, tried to murder another 8 little girls, and he seriously injured adults who he was trying to kill. These are other little children and adults left with lifelong scars, not only physically, but emotionally. And the damage that that absolute beast created on that day will leave such a deep, lasting impression on the loved ones who lost their victims, on the other victims themselves, and of course, on the British psyche, because it was such a butcherous, savage series of acts that this nation will never forget and should never forget. Now, the fact that this manipulative, and it was proven at the inquiry into his savagery, that he was manipulative. Rudakubana has been manipulative for years. Psychiatrists, doctors, all gave evidence to that inquiry about how he had endeavoured to control narratives and to manipulate medical professionals. He is a monster, and the fact that he is now going to be moved to a hospital regime rather than a prison is an absolute stain upon not only this nation, but all those people who, in my opinion, are foolish and have been completely hoodwinked.
Does it tell us anything about the culture of psychiatry and our criminal justice system and policing and the prison service that there are figures that look upon someone like Rudakubana with empathy?
Let me just remind you, if I may, of a quote that was made by somebody dealing with Rudakubana after he had been arrested. So somebody involved in the criminal justice system after this beast had been arrested for those murders and those attempted murders. And it was a quote that has stuck with me, hence I am going to repeat it to you and your wonderful audience this morning. Somebody chose to say this about Rudakubana, and I quote, "Axel is a boy with needs." Now, when a professional comes out with such a flaky, pathetic, woke statement such as that about somebody who took a knife out with the full intention of murdering as many tiny, young, beautiful children as he possibly could, who had that dreadful chemical ricin in his home, enough to kill thousands of people, somebody who was also in possession of an Al-Qaeda training manual. When somebody describes him as a boy with needs, I have deep, deep concerns about anybody who would describe such a monster in such a pathetic way.
Well, it's actually sick to describe him in that way, and it's an insult to the memory of his victims, and it's a slap in the face to the family of those 3 little girls.
Yes, I completely agree. And because it struck such a chord with me, it has simply never left me. What kind of authorities do we have when people have that kind of attitude towards somebody who I think many would regard, and perhaps rightly so, as the most vicious beast that's walked the streets of the UK for a very, very long time, if not, in fact, ever in modern history? It is abysmal. And now to think that he is going to be moved from the top security jail in Belmarsh to a hospital environment is absolutely appalling for millions. But let's reflect, if we may, just for a brief moment, what on earth must those poor families who suffered such horrendous loss, I can only hazard a guess as to what those wonderful people must be feeling.
Well, it will feel like an injustice, won't it? Because you go to prison as a punishment, and a psychiatric hospital is not prison, is it, Peter? Can you give us a flavour of how different this environment of Broadmoor will be compared to a regular prison like Belmarsh? What is the difference?
Well, your audience can go online and put Broadmoor Hospital, for example, into a search engine, and photographs that were taken recently will come up because it's just had a refurbishment. And it features cosy lounges with lime green chairs gathered around white-topped tables, and it looks absolutely nothing like a jail, which is, of course, where Rudakubana should be rotting. This manipulative monster has clearly hoodwinked people into now releasing him from prison, transferring him, I should say, from prison to one of these hospitals. And it is a hospital regime. Yes, of course, people will argue that it is secure, and it is, but it's not prison. He'll be in a cell. He'll be in a dormitory type arrangement, quite possibly. He will be in a room and not a cell. And that is a huge, huge difference. It's absolutely appalling. But while I'm talking about Rudakubana, let me mention another couple of monsters. One very notorious beast who will be, as we speak, in a hospital environment, a man who butchered 3 wonderful people to death and again tried to kill others and left them with life-changing permanent scars and horrendous memories. And that is, of course, Valdo Calacane, who went on the rampage in Nottingham and was allowed, appallingly, to plead guilty to manslaughter and consequently was made subject to a hospital order rather than being sent to where he actually should be, which is a prison. And I'm not finished yet. There was a case only last week that has gone almost completely under the radar, and that is the case of Dawood Safi. Now, do you remember Wayne Broadhurst, that wonderful street cleaner who one day was entirely innocently out walking his dog, only to be butchered to death by, guess who? An Afghan asylum seeker, somebody who should never have been in this country. And Safi, only last week, pleaded guilty to manslaughter because 4, in my opinion, hoodwinked psychiatrists all said he was ill and he should go to hospital and not to prison. And so the list grows. And so the injustices become greater. And so I believe the British public become more and more disillusioned with what is going on.
Well, I completely agree, and it's worth pointing out that Calacane and Rudakubana may well have been thwarted in the lead-up to their crimes if they hadn't been surrounded by woke, hand-wringing, well-meaning, do-gooder medics and social workers. So, for example, Calacane, we know it was flagged up that he was a dangerous man, but they didn't want to lock him up because it would be another black man in jail. And then the other issue, or not jail, but psychiatric unit, then you've got Rudakubana, his former head teacher, Peter, flagged up that he was dangerous, and she was essentially silenced because she was accused of racially profiling Rudakubana when she said that he was a big problem.
Yes, indeed. And if so many professionals in both of those cases had done their jobs diligently, properly, with a true sense of public service, with a concern for the safety of innocent children, young adults and others, then perhaps those absolutely appalling incidents, mass murders, in other words, may have been avoided. But another symptom of the malaise that runs through the very heart of British society is that so much of what people in public service do is tick box exercises. And I've seen this at very close hand when I went out with the police just a few months ago, out onto the streets. The public services are under pressure. I will grant some of them that. So consequently, when they deal with a matter, if they can tick a box by putting a sticking plaster on it, they will see that as the job done. What actually is lacking across so much of our public services is a sense of getting a grip of a situation and dealing with it thoroughly and properly and through to the end. They will claim, I'm sure, oh, pressures of work. So put on a sticking plaster, tick a box, move on to the next one. But that, of course, leaves whatever issue it may be, whether it be in the health service, whether it be in policing, whether it be in other aspects of the criminal justice system, that leaves the matter not fully and properly resolved. And that is a true malaise through the very heart of public service. And it's another reason, apart from being fearful of being labelled racist, what utter cowardice. It's another reason why this country is in such a mess.
And Peter, Rudakubana has moved from Belmarsh, which is a tough prison with reports of vermin in certain areas, including near kitchens, dirty laundry, a crowded prison estate, peril from fellow inmates, understaffed, a harsh, noisy, cold, dirty environment. Can I now just describe the alternative, which is Broadmoor, which is a psychiatric secure unit, which is where Rudakubana is. Key facilities include a cafe, a shop, a hairdresser's. There's woodwork and pottery classes, craft rooms, classrooms for education and vocational training, a multi-faith sanctuary, spacious wards with natural light and direct access to ward gardens, large central landscape garden, sports, social activities, physical health care, including GP and dentists, etc. Patients typically spend more time out of their rooms, engaged in structured therapeutic programs, education, vocational work, and recreation. Sounds like heaven. I wouldn't mind doing a year or two there.
Axel Rudakubana was sentenced to a minimum of 52 years. In all likelihood, I would like to think that he will never, ever taste freedom. So with a monster such as that, we can completely push to one side, I believe, rehabilitation. That's not relevant to Rudakubana. I am a firm believer in the rehabilitation of offenders, but of course, not all offenders. So he's beyond the pale. He's beyond rehabilitation. Rudakubana's story should be all about incarceration. There are a number of prisoners that I would like to be able to access the systems that and the facilities that you've just spoken to about, if they have a view to admitting their wrongdoing, confronting the harm that they've caused, looking at a potential release date, and then coming back into society to contribute and not take from it. And I've met a number of prisoners who have done long jail terms and have done exactly that. And they are very nice people who have turned their lives around, and I would have them at my table for a Sunday roast, or I'd go for a pint with them. So some people do need to be rehabilitated. This monster Rudakubana is way, way, way beyond the pale, and his story from here on until he gasps his last breath should only be about detention, imprisonment in the very harshest of circumstances.
Well said, Peter, as always. Let's take a voice note on this issue from Sarah.
Morning, Mark. Morning, Chloe. Great show. Just listening to your conversation about Axel Rudakubana. being moved to the mental health unit, whatever it is. No, I'm sorry. No, keep him in prison. Keep him in a basic cell with basic needs like toilet, water. He should never have had access to a kettle. He should. What the hell? It's not. This is not Butlin's holiday. This is a punishment for one of the most evil crimes I've ever heard, murdering 3 little girls. For God's sake. And as far as this mental illness is concerned, what is it in this country that we have to label everybody? I mean, I'm sorry, you're evil. If you stab somebody, you're evil. If you rape somebody, you're evil. If you kill children, you're evil. If you set bombs everywhere, you're evil. I'm sorry, and call that a mental illness if you like, but I don't care. You're evil. You need to be locked away. You should never see the light of day again. And you certainly shouldn't have access to all the luxuries.
I like that, Sarah. Rather than troubled boy, I think that evil is the appropriate word. The language, the culture and the mentality of social workers, of police officers, of judges, of psychiatrists has got to change. And we have to understand that there are bad people in this world and they wish us harm, and they should be locked up, not in a hospital, but in a prison. And here's the issue. Broadmoor, not only is it more comfortable and more luxurious with more freedom and more plush facilities, it costs around £300 to accommodate someone at Broadmoor rather than around 100 grand for a regular prisoner in a normal prison. More to come, and next up, I'll be asking Peter Blexley what he thinks about the fact that the Iranian regime are using the small boats to get terrorists into Britain. 7:25, Talk Breakfast.
Fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, and let me tell you that it's now being reported that the Iranian regime is using the English Channel and the small boats to get agents into the UK. Let's have a voice note on this from Nick.
Morning, Mark. It's Nick from Loughborough. News that the Iranian government is using the migration crisis as a means to infiltrate our country, using the crisis as a Trojan horse to fill our country full of Iranian Islamic agents, isn't new. sensible commentators have been suggesting this is the case for years, and yet it's been largely ignored. Anyway, Mark, have a good weekend.
Thank you, Nick. Ignored until now. Peter Blexley, your reaction to this front page story in The Telegraph: Iran agents sneak in as channel migrants. I mean, if this is not enough to wake up the authorities to the crisis in the channel, nothing is.
I think your contributor, Nick, summed it up briefly and perfectly. Of course, we've had hundreds of thousands of undocumented fighting age males enter the UK illegally. And let me just point out that each and every one of them has broken Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971. It is a criminal offence to enter the UK without leave to remain. So whilst the liberals and the woke and the fluffy and the progressives, as they pathetically call themselves, will shout, no, these people are asylum seekers, at the moment they enter the UK, they're illegal immigrants. They've broken the law. They should all be locked up. They should all be deported, turned around and sent back from whence they came. But of course, successive governments have pathetically failed to grasp the situation. Oh, and what liberal can I hear shouting at me? Oh, yes, that's the one who's saying, well, the numbers are down by 40% this year. Well, we had over 550 enter in the last 2 days. I haven't seen the figures for yesterday. I don't know if they've been published yet. So anybody who is not concerned by yet another 550 or so of these people coming into the UK quite simply needs their head testing. It is an absolute threat to the safety of British citizens. And of course, we must remember Siobhan White, rest her soul, that young woman, that young mother, so wickedly taken by one of these people who entered on a boat. And let's not forget all the victims of rape, serious sexual assault, harassment, and much, much more that has been proven to have been committed by these people who enter on these boats. For successive governments to have failed to get a grip on this is an absolute dereliction of the government's duty. And its number one duty is to keep this country and its citizens safe. And we know that with every boatload of these people that rocks up, Britain becomes a little bit less safe. British culture becomes a little bit more diluted. British values and customs become a little bit more ignored. And so it goes.
I completely agree. Very well put, Peter. Will we ever stop the boats?
Well, I suspect not with a Labour government. Although, of course, now that we've got rid of Starmer and Hermer, there might be a tiny chink of light. But I don't really see a Labour government led by bungling Burnham wanting to leave the European Court on Human Rights and the European Convention on Human Rights. I know that would be complicated with regards to Northern Ireland and the Good Friday Agreement. But if we had smart, intelligent, intellectual MPs instead of people whose egos are huge and whose brains the size of which is questionable, then we might have people able and willing to tackle these issues, to get a solution, to leave those conventions, to leave the rulings of that court, to not be bound by it, to be bound instead rather by our own laws, which exist to protect Britain, to protect its people, to protect its shores, and to keep these people locked up and sent back to goodness knows where, but somewhere, even it be a third country. For example, the Tories had the Rwanda system, which never quite literally got off the ground. I think if we had a territory somewhere where those who could not be deported back to their country of origin could be detained in, that would be a very, very strong deterrent. Some people have said, well, why don't we build camps on the Orkneys, for example?
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be unfair to subject the wonderful people of the Orkneys and Scotland, a country that I love so much. But we could find a remote outcrop that would not be imposing these people on the law-abiding, wonderful people of Great Britain, wheresoever they may be, and detain these people with, yes, I unashamedly say, miles and miles and miles of razor wire, of observation towers, of snarling Alsatians, or Malinois more probably these days, to keep them detained until we get them out of here.
Well, I was in central London yesterday and I witnessed a group of clearly illegal immigrants fighting over food at a food truck, and I thought, what a mess. The problem you've got is the authorities and the bureaucrats and the pen pushers, the lanyard class, the hyper-educated sort of university types that dominate public life, that dominate the media. They don't see the consequences of illegal immigration, do they? And some of them have a pathological sympathy for these people crossing the channel in boats.
I have travelled the country widely this year and continue to do so. I've been to just about each and every corner of the UK, and it has absolutely broken my heart as I enter yet another town, yet another city, to see the absolute degradation of this once great nation. And it has, in large, been caused by immigration. And of course, do you remember how the politicians used to say, actually, immigration is of net benefit to the economy? Well, that myth has been blown out of the water, and it has been fundamentally proven that people like this that arrive on boats are an absolute drain on the economy. And everybody knows that the British economy is a mess. It's stagnant. We haven't got any growth. There's no money about. But we need to find the money to detain these people and get them out of the UK. We need to find the money to create deterrence, to stop these people who throw their documents in the water, whose intentions we don't know, whose backgrounds we often don't know until they get arrested, and then we find that they're wanted for very serious crimes elsewhere around the world. Until we stop these people coming in, there needs to be the will. There is a way. Politicians do it.
If only you were in charge. Peter, a privilege to have you on the show. We love your wise words. Peter Blexley, former Met detective and speaker of Common Sense. Let's take a voice note on this if you're just joining us. It's being reported that the Iranian regime is using the small boats to get agents into the UK, presumably to plot terror attacks. Here's Pete.
All we need to do to stop the boats is really, really simple. You just need political will. So number one, let the French know our plan. Number two, drop leaflets all over Calais saying, if you come into British waters, we will sink your boat. We can do that in as many colours as you like. You can do that in whatever languages you like. Doesn't really matter. Then on the beaches of France, you have British and French police shouting in loud hailers, you're more than welcome to come on the boats, but if you go on the boats in as many languages as possible, you will be sunk. When they're in the water, what we do is we get the Royal Marines, the Royal Navy, and we say to them, intercept the boats. But while we do this, we tell the French we are going to sink the boats just before they hit British waters, and they alone are responsible and can collect them. Tell me how many boats come after that. Secondly, as for Axel Rudakubana, needle in the arm, harvest his organs, feed his remains to lions or burn. And that should go for any paedophile, that should go for any murderer. Have a good day, both. I'm really, really loving the show.
Pete, thank you for that. Not pulling his punches this morning. I thought about a live TV show called Bye Bye Axel. What do you think? It'd be great ratings, wouldn't it? Dean, producer, has promised to executive produce it. I'll host, and we'll have a live studio audience. It's truly horrific what's going on. So two big stories, folks. Axel Rudakubana, the Southport triple murderer has moved to a psychiatric hospital, which is a lot more expensive and a lot more free and a lot more luxurious. Meanwhile, Iran are using illegal immigration in the Channel to get terrorists into Britain. I'll get more reaction on both of those stories, plus your calls next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Let's take a voice note on the news that one of the worst monsters in the history of this country, Axel Rudakubana, who killed 3 little girls in Southport, is moving to a comfortable psychiatric hospital. This is a voice note from Gav.
Yeah, morning, Mark. It's Gav from Dorset. Great show. Axel Rudakubana is now officially a patient, not a criminal or a prisoner. So he's entitled to all his benefits while he is a patient. And that to me is just, the guy's an absolute scumbag. He shouldn't even be breathing air in my book. But there you go. That's just my opinion. Have a great day.
Well, Gav, I tend to agree with you. I would certainly bring back the death penalty for the most egregious crimes. We also have the news that Iran are using the small boats to get terrorists into Britain. Is that not enough to wake up the authorities and to make this a serious priority? Surely it's an emergency. Here's a voice note from Big Richard.
Good morning, Mark. You're talking about the Iran bringing their own troops in on the boats. The boats ain't boats, they're Trojan horses. We are being invaded, it's quite obvious. The trouble is, the people from within are letting it happen. Why are they letting it happen? Why haven't government been confronted about it? Why aren't they being confronted properly by news people and research people and the police? Why are all these things happening? Is it all planned to bring a country down? It was all forecast a long time ago by someone called the Rivers of blah, blah, blah. So what is going on? Are we being led along, gaslit? More than likely. It's all planned, Mark, to bring everyone down to the knees. And something big's going to happen. Even Trump said it's going to happen. It's all happening. People have got to wake up pretty quick. Have a beautiful day, Mark. Thank you, Richard from Leicester.
Thank you, Richard. When will the public and the authorities wake up? 2 big stories. A triple murderer that convinces medics to be moved to a psychiatric unit, and illegal immigrants are crossing the Channel, some of whom now sponsored by the Iranian regime, and still they won't stop the boats. Tracy in Chingford, good morning, Mark. I'm sick of hearing these fighting-age men and the fact that they pay thousands to come here by boat. These are from some of the poorest countries. Where the hell do they get this money from? It's been obvious for years that someone is paying this money, and it's done by design. Alan is in North Yorkshire. Alan, Axel Rudakubana is now in the comfortable luxury of Broadmoor Mental Hospital. Your reaction?
Well, I've got a bill. My chest is bursting. I need a whole programme just for myself. I'm so angry. The thing is, there's way too much administration in this country and not enough activation. They keep passing the buck from one part of the system to another part of the system to another part of the system. There's just too many people involved in making one decision. And to me, it seems ridiculous. Can I just make one other point?
Alan, take your time. I'm all ears, big man.
Right. It's not beyond the bounds of possibility. My thinking is that the prison people have kind of coerced this situation because they want shot of him because he's a bloody nuisance.
Interesting.
And have they conspired together with the psychiatrist, with whoever, to dump him off themselves and send him to a hospital because they really can't be bothered with him, or they're frightened of him because they're being threatened by him. And when my mates get in here, which they will inevitably, they're going to sort you out, blah, blah, blah. And the other thing is, if prisoners are living in rat-infested, horrible conditions, well, get the bloody prisoners to clear the mess up. I live on my own now because, sadly, my wife's dying of cancer in care, and my house is spotless because, out of respect for my wife and myself, I keep my home clean because I want to live here. And I've got to live here after she's gone. Get the prisoners to clear the mess up. Don't have people come in to do it. Make it part of their what's the agreement for them being in jail.
Their responsibilities, their sort of rules or whatever.
Yeah, and one final point. If I go to Australia on holiday tomorrow and I go to the embassy there and say, can I become a political asylum seeker, please? Where are you from? I'm from England. I'm from North Yorkshire. Can I become... They say, what do you think they say? Yeah, come on. I'm sorry, mate. You come to this country then, Mr. Australia, and you go to Leicester, you go to Leeds, you go to Birmingham, you go to London. Are we in danger in this country? Well, you're bloody right we're in danger. We're in so much danger that's being ignored. I mean, the birth rate of our Muslim cousins is far higher, by 2.4 times higher than the birth rate of non-Muslim people. So exponentially, over a not too long a period, this is going to be a Muslim state in 25 years' time or thereabouts. That's unavoidable. That's going to happen, I believe.
Alan, you're a wise man, and I really appreciate your call. This is massive, folks. Illegal immigration, Iran using the boats to get terrorists into Britain. And still the woke progressive left, the lanyard class, the Islingtonites, have empathy and are tolerant of these illegal boat crossings. Will we ever stop the boats? Because if people being murdered and raped as a result of illegal immigrants is not enough to wake people up, if regimes like Iran planting terrorists in Britain via small boats is not enough to wake people up, I'm not sure anything will. Will we ever stop the boats? 0344 499 1000. Plus your reaction to the news that Axel Rudakubana has convinced medics to let him live in a mental secure unit rather than a prison. 7:47 Talk Breakfast.
fifth Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Talk Breakfast 7:50, front page of the Telegraph. Iran agents sneak in as channel migrants. You heard me right. The most wicked regime since the Third Reich, Iran, which calls Britain the little Satan, is using the small boats to get agents into the UK, presumably to harm us. Let's get reaction now from a man that's been very vocal on the issue of immigration for a long, long time. Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre of Migration Control. Hello, Robert.
Morning, Mark. I hope you're well.
I'm very well indeed. This is not the first we've heard of terror links to some of those crossing the channel.
No, it's far from it. But I think actually now what this reporting does reveal unequivocally is that this channel crisis is a national security threat. And this is something that our own terror watchdog has been very vocal, saying that actually the channel crisis and the importation of young men from culturally distant nations does pose a huge threat to the country's national security. And even if you throw your mind back a couple of years when the likes of Suella Braverman were calling the channel crisis an invasion, they were decried. We had human rights groups, we had left-wing academics lining up to condemn the use of deplorable language. But actually, for anyone with common sense, they could see that having individuals coming that are unvetted from backgrounds from many countries that hate Britain, it is a real threat to the people of this country. And of course, as you mentioned before the break, it's not just the threat of sexual assault or violence. It is actually the huge opportunity that it does pose to states that hate this country to send their own agents into Britain. I think actually what the Telegraph has reported here should actually really require Parliament to be recalled, because this is something now that is demonstrating just how little we know about the people coming into this country and how much many of them do hate our country.
Why are the political class, the media class, the lanyard class, the public sector so relaxed about illegal immigration?
I think in large part it's because it poses an opportunity for them to gesture, for them to show to one another how much they are good people and how much they actually care about the nebulous concept of human rights.
And they call these people refugees, of course, which is a manipulation of language.
Well, quite, and you hear the kind of things of, oh, no individual is illegal. How dare you even describe them as illegal migrants? And actually, the language that they do use is to try and shut down actually this kind of necessary debate. And I don't know actually how you could expect a country, a self-respecting country, to continue with this state of affairs. And I think a large part of the problem is that Britain's political debate has been so degraded in recent years and has been so hijacked by those that do hate this country that it has been allowed for this conversation to be very, very much gatekept for a long period of time. I think this is going to be the defining issue of the next general election, despite the fact the current Prime Minister has not even mentioned the word migration since entering number 10. The small boats crisis, the migration crisis is going to define the next general election. It's about time, actually, I think we deserve it, that we had a Prime Minister who's prepared to confront the reality of this crisis rather than continue to use the sophistry and the lukewarm words that the Labour government have really adopted since taking power in July 24.
Well, I don't know what is going to provoke the political class to wake up to the seriousness of this problem, because we had, for example, Rhiannon White murdered by somebody that entered the country illegally. He was at a migrant hotel, which in itself is a scandal because of the cost and the impact on local communities. He's accommodated at a migrant hotel. Rhiannon White works there. She's on her way home. She's at the train station. He attacks her with a screwdriver multiple times, kills her. And that doesn't create a reaction. Then we bring the news that people with terror links are crossing the small boats on the channel. I just don't know what is going to wake people up to this, Robert.
And it is heartbreaking, actually, that, you know, it has taken incidents like Rhiannon White or Wayne Broadhurst for the conversation to even get close to recognising how much of a threat this actually is.
And yet, but it's changed nothing. I agree with you. There's more of a conversation, Robert, but it hasn't moved the dial. Rhiannon White getting murdered by an illegal with a screwdriver, Iranian terrorists using small boats. It's made not a blind bit of difference.
And I absolutely agree with you. In a properly functioning country and in a democracy in particular, the public outrage, the public pain that has been felt since these horrific incidents took place should have reset the dial, and it should have required a fundamental going back to basics and recognising that actually allowing thousands of individuals, unvetted, young men, culturally distant nations coming into your country every single year is not something that a normal country does. And actually it is abhorrent. It's an assault on every single thing that this country is meant to stand for. But yet it has been allowed to continue now for coming on to 8 years. The political class have tried all kinds of lukewarm solutions, piecemeal measures to try and persuade us that they're taking action. But again, the underlying problem remains. And this is something that will continue for the foreseeable future. There's no chance of the Labour Party cracking down on this, because they are not going to go and do what is necessary, which is to introduce a policy of detention and deportation. Because if we were detaining those that came across the channel, not allowing them out onto Britain's streets, then that would dramatically reduce the security threat, and actually it would send a message to those that are thinking of coming over as well, that they are not going to be able to claim asylum, stay in Britain for the foreseeable future. Because let's not forget, over 200,000 have now crossed the channel, and a fraction, about 5%, have actually been deported. Most of them remain. Even if their asylum claim is rejected, they have really the ability to remain indefinitely because of the simple fact that we are signed up to a lot of human rights frameworks, such as the Refugee Convention, that makes returning individuals to the likes of Afghanistan or Eritrea nigh on impossible. And I think it is time, well, it has been time since 2018, but I think it is now beyond doubt that we need to put the national interest first. And if human rights, international law gets in the way of that, then to heck with international law and human rights.
Well, I've just done a little bit of research during that fascinating answer you've just given me, because I want to know why having borders is so controversial, Robert, and why we're challenging the notion of a border now and the idea of nationhood. And can I give you a brief history lesson and tell you that are you ready for this? Organised border controls have existed for over 2,300 years. It started with ancient passes. Civilizations like ancient India and the Han Dynasty in China used sealed written passes to regulate movement in and out of territories. City gates, for most of history, borders between realms were fluid borderlands. Real exclusion happened at fortified town and city gates rather than on national lines. In 1648, the Peace of Westphalia introduced distinct state territories managed by police and border control. Borders are not a new idea, but the very idea of it now is being tested.
Borders are the most natural thing on earth. Actually, they are the recognition that a community, a national group, have the right to control who enters their territory. And Britain and England in particular was far earlier in the many other countries, even in Europe, recognizing that fact. But yet now it seems to be the inverse, and we seem to be the country in Europe, the country globally that is most reluctant to enforce our borders. And I think it's absolute travesty that we are abandoning all common sense. We're abandoning what, as you say, millennia of human experience has recognized, which is that if you want a properly functioning society, if you want harmony, then you have to be able to control those that come in.
Robert, I've only got a couple of seconds. Will we ever stop the boats?
We will after the general election. That is the most important thing. Next general election, the single most important election in British history.
You're a very important man, Robert, and you speak so well, and you're a hero, and you got there early on this. You were right then, and you're right now, and may only God will that you prevail. Robert Bates, Research Director for the Centre of Migration Control. Robert, thank you for that. Is immigration a national emergency now of the illegal type? Will we ever stop the boats? Lots more to come. Ben Habib is next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 8. Top of the morning, happy Saturday one and all. Mark Dolan with you for a big talk breakfast this morning. The full English, the full Scottish, the full Welsh, the full Northern Irish. Breaking this morning, the monster manipulator Axel Rudakubana, the man who murdered 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport, stands accused of playing games, manipulating and lying to prison staff in order to secure a move to a comfortable psychiatric hospital. Will bring reaction. Now, this is one of the worst murderers in the history of this country, which begs a simple question. Should we bring back the death penalty? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, how much will it take for the authorities and the political class to wake up to the crisis of illegal immigration? As the Telegraph report that the Iranian regime, one of the most wicked regimes in history, is using the small boats to get agents into the UK, presumably to plot harm against our citizens. So your reaction, will we ever stop the boats? What's it going to take to wake up those that govern us and to treat this as the emergency it absolutely is? We've got terror states using the small boats to get people into the country that will plot harm on our people. Your reaction, 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK and your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. And my questions this morning are very, very simple. What do you think? Axel Rudakubana, your reaction to the news that he's moving into a psychiatric hospital. Does this demonstrate the wokery among medical staff and the psychiatrists and the hand-wringing nurses and the well-meaning doctors? And what about the judges? And what about the prison officers with this sympathy for someone like Axel Rudakubana, who should surely remain under lock and key? My phone number 0344 499 1000. Will we ever stop the boats? That's my other issue, because if Rhiannon White murdered with a screwdriver by somebody staying at the migrant hotel where she was working is not enough to wake people up, I don't know what is. Will we ever stop the boats? I don't know. Can you help me with that? I don't know if we ever will. Is that it? Have we just got to accept open borders and let murderers and rapists and terrorists come into the country willy-nilly? 80%, 90% of whom will stay. We don't know who they are. Will we ever stop the boats? 0344 499 1000. Let's take a cheeky voice note, if we can, George, from James.
Regarding Labour and this early prison crackpot scheme that they're trying to do. Yvette Cooper, Shabala Mahmood, whatever the hell she's called, and Wes Treating stand there and they laugh and they joke about it. This is unbelievable. I tell you what, politicians, you stand there and you laugh about it to all the victims that have lost their lives and have also been traumatised for the rest of their life. Look at that policeman, for example, Mark, gets dragged along the street in the car for just over a mile. You go and tell that to the family. I'm raging, Mark. I'm absolutely raging that these people are in positions of power. They don't give a stuff about this country. It's all me, me, me. Unbelievable. Like I say, Mark, I'm spitting feathers. And we've got 10,000 foreign criminals. Deport them. Get lost. Just deport them. They're scumbags. Anyway, Mark, thank you very much for listening to my voice note. And like I said before, and I'll keep saying it, Dolan's dispatch is superb. It knocks spots off the BBC. Superb.
James, that's incredibly kind. I'm humbled by your generous words. And this channel and this show is nothing without you. And you're spitting with rage, and I'm angry too. The early release. I mean, we have a contract with the state. We pay our taxes, and they're supposed to keep law and order. They're supposed to run prisons, have a judicial system which locks up bad people. What about that young woman? She's an adult now, but when she was 14, she was kidnapped and attacked in the most egregious way that I can't describe on a family show, because I think there are going to be kids in the car listening, so we're not going to go there. But you can imagine what I'm talking about. She's 14, she's kidnapped, and she's subjected to the most horrific crimes. That person was supposed to get 9 years, and based upon this plan to release prisoners early, he'll get 3. He's supposed to get 9, which is not enough. I'd give it 15 or 20 years. Supposed to get 9 years, out in 3. 3 years to kidnap a 14-year-old girl and commit egregious crimes that I cannot describe on a family show. 3 years! Ben Habib is the chairman of Great British PAC and joins me now. Hi, Ben.
Good morning.
We're all angry, aren't we? Where to start? After the break, we'll cover Iran and illegal immigration. But can I ask for your reaction to the news that Axel Rudakubana, one of the worst murderers in the history of this country, is now being accommodated in a psychiatric hospital?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, there's no level, it seems, that the authorities, the institutions of this country are prepared to sink in order to protect those who do damage against the people of this country. I mean, we're going to talk about the boats, but it's part of the same, it's another symptom of the same problem, a lack of preparedness to do what's right to protect civil society in the United Kingdom. Axel Rudakubana is a convicted killer of, I think, 3 9-year-old girls, an attempted murder of another 8, attempted murder of 2 adults, and he killed these girls, and the attempts he made on the others were the most brutal attempts, a brutal way of killing them. I think one of the girls was stabbed 130 times, and then he tried to do all sorts of other things to the body. I mean, absolutely gruesome. And here we are caring about his mental health. At what point do we lose touch with the reality that this man is just a disgusting vermin criminal? At what point do we wake up and realize he doesn't deserve the sympathy of the state? He deserves to be absolutely maximum retribution against him for the heinous crimes that he's committed. And that you mentioned possibly bringing back the death penalty. And of course, at moments like this, what you really want to do is put that vermin down. You know, every corpuscle in one's body wants to put him down. But we've got to be very careful not to react like that, because for the death penalty for him, as justifiable as it might be, it then gives the same state, a state in which we don't really have confidence at the moment. We know we've got a 2-tier criminal justice system, massive power over human life. So we've got to be quite careful, I think, about how we react to this. But the first step in all of this is recognizing that when someone does something that is illegal, which damages civil society, which damages society, communities, breaks the rules which allow communities to go about their daily business lawfully without fearing for their own security. When you break those rules, you give up your rights. Your rights are given up. You should not be protected by the same rights that civil society should be protected by. But actually, we've gone completely the other way around. We protect the criminals and we throw civil society under a bus. That's where we've got to in the pursuit of being civilized.
Well, there is a pathology at the heart of this, and an issue around the culture of our criminal justice system, perhaps the NHS as well, local authorities, a sort of hand-wringing empathy towards criminals.
Yeah, there is. It's the same empathy that we are handing out for people breaking into our country illegally on these dinghies.
By calling them refugees, which is a lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And Keir Starmer and other members of the cabinet habitually refer to them as irregular migrants. In other words, they're just migrants. They can't even, if you can't bring yourself to determine what they are, which is criminals at day one because they're breaking into the country, there is no hope of us being able to take the steps that we need to take to protect British citizens and law-abiding people in this country. There is no hope if you can't even identify them as being criminals. You know, we've got a massive problem.
We've got a massive problem. And what is the message to the families of those 3 little girls murdered in Southport to see this criminal, this evil man, accommodated in a very comfortable environment with pottery workshops, a cafe, a hairdresser's, walks in the gardens, relative freedom and comfort. What is the message to the families of the victims?
Well, the message to them and the message to the world, and indeed the criminal world, is that the victims don't matter. Your daughters don't matter. We are going to protect this criminal. And that message is obviously repugnant for the parents of the girls, but it's also a massive encouragement to all other criminals in the United Kingdom. It's like putting an open door policy, an open door sign over criminality in the UK. Come in, do what you want. We haven't got the courage, the ability, the wherewithal, the fortitude to do what's right to protect ourselves. We will lay ourselves bare, let ourselves be assaulted, and you will not be punished. It will encourage criminality. And it's no surprise, therefore, that we see criminality dramatically on the rise in the United Kingdom, because we don't have a criminal justice system that makes it known to criminals that when you break the law, you will have the full force of the law chucked at you.
Is the Axel Rudakubana story one of mass immigration, Ben, or is it difficult to conflate those two issues?
Well, he is. I don't know whether you term him first generation
British.
or second gen. He was born, I think, in the United Kingdom,
Correct.
but of Rwandan parents. And I think there's some suggestion that his father may have been involved in, not very savory activities in Rwanda when he was there. And you have to ask yourself this question, that why are we prepared to have even a single individual from a foreign country in our country if there's a risk of such hospitality being abused in the way that Axel Rudakubana abused it? Isn't it better just to have a completely closed-door policy and make sure that we stop this problem in its tracks? We're always going to have criminality. That's part of human nature. But why are we importing it? Why are we prepared to import it? Now, some will argue he was British because he was born here, but actually he was an imported problem not so long ago.
And Rwanda has a long history of barbaric political violence.
Of course, the massive massacres between the Houthis and Tutus or whatever they called, you remember all of that. And and large parts of the globe do, Mark, don't they? We're called Western civilization because over hundreds of years, through massive endeavor, through the evolution of our society, we became civilized. And I'm sad to say that the strength required to become civilized and maintain civility in our society is basically being undermined, and our civilization is now being threatened by being perhaps over-civilized, not being prepared to take the steps that are required to be taken to protect ourselves and protect society within the country. Civilization, I think, for any students of history, and vast majority of viewers will know this every bit, and anyone who's had even the slightest brush, I think, with history will know that all civilizations end up eating themselves up.
Yes.
The Greek civilization, the Roman civilization, Austro-Hungarian Empire, whatever. And we are there. That's what the United Kingdom is doing. We are like 400 AD Rome. We can see that the practices that we're allowing to take place are going to destroy us as a people, and we're not taking any steps to address those problems. We are literally fiddling while Rome is burning. Our Rome is burning, and we need to wake up to it. Civilization in this country needs a good dose of a kick in the shins to wake up. Otherwise, we will lose it completely.
Most definitely. And if you look at the Southport triple murder, which, as you mentioned, could have been even worse than it was, is an example, is it not, of civilizational collapse?
It is. It's a preparedness to accept
because
this
those
barbarian.
sorts of crimes didn't happen 50 years ago, Ben.
No.
They didn't.
No.
And
No, they
don't
didn't.
Gaslight me into saying they did. They didn't.
Yeah. Absolutely, they didn't. Absolutely, they didn't. And even one crime committed by an individual who's in this country and shouldn't be in this country is one crime too many. It's no good. Some of these lefties say, well, it's not just people of South Asian origin who rape young white girls. Other people in this country have done it. But that's not the point, is it? That you don't justify barbarity by finding an example of domestically created violence. There shouldn't be any foreign perpetrated criminality against British people in the United Kingdom. There shouldn't be any. If there is, then our policies on welcoming foreigners into this country has gone wrong. And I know you want to, perhaps we will talk about the boats now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing that exactly with the boats. Of course, the IRGC is going to exploit it. I imagine the IRGC is not alone in exploiting it. There must be lots of powers out there who are thinking, look, the borders of Europe are down. Send in. It's not just the United Kingdom, by the way. It'll be France, Germany, Greece, the Netherlands, Italy. Every single one of these countries has a bigger problem than the United Kingdom. Every single one of these hitherto civilized Western countries, our allies, people that we grew up with, if you like, they are all being undermined fundamentally by their lack of preparedness to enforce borders. And I'm afraid it starts with the flipping European Union, who's willfully taken borders down in the pursuit of their free Schengen zone. It's such a daft idea. Borders existed and they developed over thousands of years for the protection of people within those borders. They were guarded by armed people who would kill you if you tried to cross those borders. And now we take those borders down and we see it as some kind of advancement of civilization. It's not. It's laying yourself bare to assault. And that's what we're seeing.
It is the opposite of civilization. Let's take a voice note from Charlie, if we can, Ben.
Umbria, great show as usual. Rudakubana, what do you say? Apparently the Ministry of Justice has to approve a transfer from prison to hospital, so I wonder if a petition to reverse is possible. I mean, the guy shouldn't be breathing, in my opinion, but if we can't do that, he certainly shouldn't get to live in a hospital in relative luxury at over 300 grand a year. Cheers. Have a good one.
Next up, the wicked Iranian regime is using the small boats to get terrorists into Britain. I'll get reaction from the fearless Ben Habib. 8:20, this is Talk Breakfast.
Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
8:23 Talk Breakfast, and fantastic journalism from the Daily Telegraph newspaper. Front page: Iran agents sneak in as channel migrants. Let's take a voice note on this from Craig, if we can.
Good morning, Mark. This is Craig from Ilkley. So we've got Iranian agents coming across on the small boats. Well, I think this has been known about for a long time, and not probably just the Iranians, but other hostile nations as well. And think about it from their perspective, from a budget. Do they have to, raise capital to fund these people while they're in the UK planning their nefarious plots, etc.? No, they don't have to spend a penny, because guess what? We, the mugs in the UK, the taxpayers, you and I and all of the listeners of Talk, we're paying for these people to be housed in, semi-luxurious accommodation, free this, free that, dancing lessons, internet, 60 gigabyte SIM cards every month, mobile phones, you name it. We're funding these people to be doing their plotting, to be thinking about critical infrastructure, where can we plant the devices, etc. What can we do here to, make life a bit more miserable for people in the UK? That's the reality. The hostile nations don't have to spend a penny. We are funding it. We are mugs. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Ben Habib is the chairman of Great British PAC and joins me now. Ben, if a young woman that's working in a migrant hotel who is murdered by one of the inhabitants at a train station with a screwdriver is not enough to wake up the political media class to the crisis in the Channel, if Iran, one of the most wicked regimes in history, using agents to infiltrate the country via small boats, is not enough to wake up the media and political class, what will?
I mean, it looks like we're not prepared to wake up. Even the Iranian regime is basically telling us that they're doing this. They've actually informed us. They've said they've got operatives in this country. And it's cheaper and easier for them to use those operatives than it is to launch an intercontinental ballistic missile, though they have the capability to do that as well, as we know, because they launched a couple at Diego Garcia, one of which was shot down by the Americans, the other one landed in the sea. If they were, by the way, I'm digressing, but if they were to fire a missile at the UK, we don't possess the armory required to take that missile down. That was also confirmed in the last couple of days. The UK is becoming a sitting duck for powers abroad that want to do damage to us, both militarily as well as undermining our security across this open border that we've got with France. And that voice note absolutely summed it up. The IRGC doesn't even need to spend any money looking after these people once they get here. They get the full protection of the state. I read a Home Office comment on the IRGC exporting people to the UK, saying that actually there's rigorous checks that take place of people who've come across the Channel, and we will detain and deport anyone that we find from the IRGC. Yeah, like hell. There is absolutely no chance the Home Office or our security services would be able to vet who's coming across the Channel. The whole point is we don't know who they are, and they come from a multiplicity of different places. We don't even know how old many of these people are. They lie about their age. They end up in schools. They end up threatening young children in this country because we can't tell what their age is. And as I said in the first segment of this program, even one crime committed by someone in this country who shouldn't be here should be enough to wake up the authorities to recognize that any elements in this country that are here criminally, enter this country criminally, need to be got rid of. Any foreigners in this country that break our laws need to be got rid of. The 11,000 prisoners sitting in, taking up 11% of our prison space, they need to be deported. We need to start waking up to the realization that in order to stay civilized, we need to get rid of barbarians out of our system and prevent barbarians from entering it. And that requires, I'm afraid, Mark, just an iota of barbaric behavior by ourselves, by our security services, by the Navy, by our armed forces. We need to rediscover just a little bit of backbone, a bit of strength, understanding that wars, when they take place, may not take place just abroad where we can sanitize it and pretend it's not happening. The war that's now taking place is taking place on our shores, in our country, and we need to man up and deal with it. And this notion that we can't stop the boats in the channel is an absolutely ridiculous one. The Royal Navy can't stop a dinghy. Rubbish. Yes, of course, in an attempt to stop a dinghy that's seeking illegally to enter the United Kingdom's territorial waters, there may be a physical exchange. There may be something that takes place in the channel that could endanger those lives that are trying to break into this country. But the message should be sent to these people and the smugglers that put them in the channel that that danger is of their own making, not ours. We're doing what we're legitimately entitled to do, which is to protect the United Kingdom. If they put their lives in danger willfully by seeking to break our laws to get into this country, well, then they must suffer the consequences of the danger that they've put themselves in. It's not for us to protect them at the cost of civil society in this country. We must not take the knee to criminality for fear of hurting criminals. We must be robust with criminals at every level. Axel Rudakubana, our borders, foreign criminals in this country, anyone here that is doing damage to this country, we need to be robust with them and get rid of them.
Well, yes, and I'm interested by your remarks about how to police the channel, and I think we could take a leaf out of the book of Israel, which of course has a formidable military, and I think you can basically convey to these criminal gangs who are responsible for the small boats crisis that you've got a week and you set a date, and the date that you set is the moment that the Royal Navy properly police our border and the high sea. And yes, you can explain that in a week's time there will be fatalities if the boats continue to come. You can warn people that this is coming. Ben, the UK...
Mark, it would stop in its tracks.
It would stop
in its tracks.
Stop it, yeah.
It would stop it in its tracks.
Because what the Navy would say is, we'll be turning these boats around, and that means that comes with enormous peril because these boats may sink and all the rest of it. So we're warning you that's going to be the policy in a week's time, so don't come.
100%. It would stop it in its tracks. You stop one boat physically, and the rest of the boats would just stop. You know, why is it, by the way, Mark, sorry, you may want to move on to another segment, but why is it that we're prepared to go abroad, launch military strikes on military targets, but with collateral civilian damage, and be prepared to prosecute a war internationally, but not prepared to prosecute whatever force is required in order to protect our own country? Why is it that it's fine to do it abroad, but not to do it here? We need to do it here much more than abroad. This is our home. This is the front door to the United Kingdom. It needs to be locked and bolted, and we need to stand behind it, ready to protect ourselves if someone tries to break the door down.
With open borders, the UK is effectively a holiday camp for criminals and terrorists. The UK is now a destination, Ben, for some of the most dangerous people on the planet.
It's absurd. And the situation here, as bad as it is, and again, I mentioned this in the first segment, however bad the situation is here, it's much, much worse in Europe. France is falling apart. Greece is falling apart under the weight of what's going on. Germany has got the same problem. Merkel started all this nonsense. Merkel's got a massive problem with foreign criminal elements in the country. Europe is falling. Europe is falling, and the EU's not waking up to it. We need to wake up. As a civilization, we will cease to exist unless we wake up and start taking dramatic steps to protect ourselves. It's fundamental. It's basic.
It is. Does it go beyond just the left of this country, the complacency about illegal immigration and civilizational collapse, do you think, Ben?
I think it's absolutely. I think even the so-called right-hand side of politics. I mean, what I've just said, a lot of people will hear what I've just said, which I think is just absolute common sense, but they will interpret it as far-right rhetoric. You know, because any attempt made to protect us and to differentiate us from foreigners is basically, in their minds, not acceptable. And it goes back, actually, fundamentally to the regulatory and legislative framework of the United Kingdom, which now doesn't discern between your rights as a British citizen and your rights as a foreigner. It regards, through the Human Rights Act, the Equalities Act, progressive discrimination, DEI, all that stuff that we've discussed many times before. Through that entire agenda, we have set aside what it means to be British. We've removed the rights that we used to have as British citizens and given these rights over to people who are foreigners. People, in many cases, shouldn't even be in this country because they've entered the country illegally. And then we've gold-plated those rights, and we've progressively discriminated in favor of those people. What is the housing of an illegal migrant in a 4-star hotel, giving them free food, free dental care, free medical care? What is that, if not gold-plating their protection of criminality? That's what we've done. And it is absurd. So yes, it's clearly something the left faces massively because they just disconnected from reality entirely. But even the right-hand side of politics has been undermined by this legislative framework that's been in place for 30 years. And it's a point that I make often when I'm allowed to speak at length, that, we talk about culture as if it's something separate from all the other aspects of our country. Actually, culture is linked very directly to legislation and regulations. When you change legislation and you change regulations, such that, for example, you can't differentiate between a British citizen and a foreigner, it becomes the culture of the British people not to discriminate between themselves and foreigners. You forget who you are as a country. And we are seeing that culturally right across the political spectrum. People talk about economically getting the United Kingdom back on its feet. We will not get the UK economically back on its feet until we can trust each other in the country. We start being culturally homogeneous. We go about our business confident in each other. Once we can do that, then economically, I think there's a chance of resurgence. But right now, we're living in a country which is falling apart. Multiculturalism, multicultural silos, the increasing violence that's taking place, the collapse of our criminal justice system, the increase in violent crime on our streets, all of this is undermining our ability to be economically prosperous. So when the Conservative Party talks about we're going to cut taxes, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, I'm afraid that's only a very small part of it. To be prosperous economically, we need to look at the organism in its entirety, and that means getting our culture back on its feet.
And what's wonderful, Ben, and of course you and I could have another conversation about the dire state of the economy, given your success as an entrepreneur, you know what a balance sheet looks like. We are in the red. But it starts with culture, as you say, and the good news, Ben, is it costs nothing to restore and enforce our culture. That's free, because you can have legislation which basically dismantles the legal and constitutional framework that makes it hard for us to deport illegals. And here's my landing point. Do you agree with this? My vision for the UK is a multi-ethnic society based around British values, British traditions and British law. Is that working for you?
So the ethnicity, I couldn't give a damn about the skin color of someone. What I care about is whether they buy into our culture, what was traditionally British culture. And by the way, one thing I didn't mention, at the heart of British culture used to be aspiration, an understanding that we had to work in order to get on in life, and that we wished to work to get on in life because we were rewarded for it. That culture has been replaced with a culture of dependency. And so culture is very, very important.
And it costs nothing to fix it.
And it costs absolutely nothing to fix it. You fix the culture, you reintroduce a sense of pride in this country, a sense of belief, a common language so we can communicate with each other, an understanding that we're a liberal democracy and that being that form of liberalism does not justify people bringing their culture to this country and undermining our culture, an understanding that women should not be clad from head to toe and hidden away from society. They should be liberated in the way that we spent hundreds of years liberating women and giving them the rights that they now have. Reacquainting ourselves with all of that If we do all of that, then the rest of the picture starts fixing itself, because then we will understand who we are. And we will put a protective blanket around ourselves. And by putting that protective blanket around ourselves, we will economically benefit ourselves as well. I mean, let me just give you another example of where culture goes absolutely mad. We talk about the need to decarbonize this country. Andy Burnham's been talking about the deindustrialization of the United Kingdom under Maggie Thatcher. Actually, the way we deindustrialize the United Kingdom is by adopting the culture of climate change, giving up our industry to foreign powers, and then doing free trade deals with these foreign powers to buy the goods that we would otherwise make here, buy it from them cheaply because they don't have the same stupid net zero regulations that makes their energy expensive. They don't have the same employment laws that makes employing people incredibly expensive in their countries. We are deindustrializing ourselves because of a cultural disposition. And unless you fix that, you're never going to fix anything.
The term national treasure is overused, but it's highly appropriate for Ben Habib, chairman of Great British PAC. Ben, we know how busy you are. Thank you so much for making that much time to have this important conversation about the country. Have a good weekend, Ben, and we will speak very, very soon. There you go. Ben says, fix the culture of this country, the economy and society will follow. Lots more to come. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, 8:40. And what about this, folks? Welcome to Broken Britain and the woke Church of England, who are taking £100 million away from parish churches to spend on, wait for it, slavery reparations. Let's take a listen to the Conservative MP, Katie Lamb, exposing this madness.
The Church of England is planning to give away £100 million in slavery reparations, and their justification is a complete joke. Apparently, they're required to do so because a fund established by Queen Anne in 1704 had invested in a company involved in the West African slave trade. The problem is that it turns out this supposed link between the church and slavery is fake. The original report seems to have confused South Sea Securities, which would have been money invested in the slave trade, with South Sea Annuities, which is just money which was lent to the British government. There is no evidence that the Church of England made any money at all from the slave trade in this way.
It's wild. Let's get reaction from Bishop Kyrian Dewar, a very good friend of this show. And Kyrian, lovely to have you back on the programme. What does this policy tell us about the attitude of the Church of England towards its own parishioners?
Morning, Mark. And good morning. I think it's absolutely disgusting. The problem is that there's a slight misrepresentation in how this is being portrayed. This is not money earmarked by the Church of England. This has been a decision made by the church commissioners concerning the funds. And their argument is that this is money that cannot be used for parishional ministry and propping up other parts of the Church of England that is failing, which is a complete lie. Now, we must examine who are the decision makers in this, because they're doing this outside of any formal debate, any vote or consent of the General Synod, the representative governing body of the Church of England. And there are 5 key voices in the church commissioners that really cause me alarm. Those are the Prime Minister, the Lord Chancellor, the Culture Secretary, the two speakers of the houses of both houses of Parliament. So here we have once again a socialist liberal government dictating the mission and the mandate of the church, propped up by the fact we've got two archbishops of woke and a Church of England that is more inclined to pushing political ideology than it is about sustaining parish ministry, promoting the work of parish churches, preaching the gospel, mission evangelism in communities. This is a really, I mean, I'm not quite sure how many more nails in the coffin of the Church of England they can drive in to make sure that it's, if not on life support, but almost dead completely.
Well, we've had figures in the Church of England, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, no less, Kai, praising open borders, speaking up for trans rights, quite happy to have slavery reparations, other woke leftist nonsense. Now, is it my misinterpretation of Christianity that it's supposed to be a conservative faith?
That is an absolutely bullseye accurate interpretation. Unfortunately, what we've had in the last 50 or 60 years is a complete departure of the Church of England from the doctrine of the church and the truth of Scripture. And this is a direct result of allowing the General Synod to be no longer a consultative body, but a governing body, because it's full of lefties, it's full of liberals, it's full of people pushing all manner of woke agendas. And for the first time in its history, since the General Synod came into being, the government has a seat at the table, both in the governing of the finances of the church and its mission, and in the formation of the doctrine of the church. So as we've seen from, you know, kind of late 70s onwards, these continual progressive Labour governments coming in that are pushing all manner of agendas. This really is a question, once again, on what are the priorities of our state church. And the priorities do not seem to be the mission and the mandate that is given to the Church of Jesus Christ, to his apostles, and handed down through the ages. We have held to sound biblical doctrine for the better part of 2,000 years. And all of a sudden, in the last 40 or 50 years, we've had this repeated change of the canon of Scripture and the canon law of the church to fit ideologies and the spirit of the age. And any time you have to do that, guess which one is wrong? I will assure you it is not Scripture nor canon law.
So your view is that the Christian message is a conservative one?
Absolutely. It goes without any reasonable doubt that the Christian message, the Christian faith, is a reasonable one, it is a conservative one, and it is reasonable, it is fair, it is just.
Why is there no space for leftist progressivism within the Christian message?
Because the message of the gospel never changes. It is absolute truth, whether you believe it or not. It is not a relative truth like the Church of England and other Anglican bodies around the world are trying to create to fit a narrative of the spirit of the age. The church in its infancy was called the ecclesia, that literally means the called out ones, the separated ones. We're not supposed to flip and flop with every spirit of the age, every woke ideology or every passing fad and trend that comes about. We are supposed to be called out and separate, and the Scriptures upon which the foundations and the continuing faith is based is a blueprint for that formation and the continuation of the church as a living entity in society. Yes, we are separate from it, but we are supposed to be a part of the society, acting as the moral voice, something the Church of England has not just forgotten, but completely abandoned.
There are some on the left that might argue that it's a very Christian thing to welcome refugees into the UK or have the tolerance to accept somebody that identifies as female in a male body. How would you counter that it's Christian, for example, to accept open borders?
It is completely un-Christian and completely anti-biblical. to accept open borders. The church is commanded to make to take care of the strangers, the orphans, and the widows, and we must do that. But for 2 millennia, the church has always been at the understanding that in doing that, you must never, ever put the welfare of your own people ahead of the needs of the foreigner when your own people are struggling. We must take care of refugees and foreigners, genuine refugees, many of whom I have helped come into this country that are genuinely fleeing persecution, not coming here as economic migrants masquerading as refugees. And the problem with the church is the Church of England is this: when you advocate, albeit unofficially, for an open borders policy, you are opening the door to all manner of atrocities which we have seen over the last 40 or 50 years taking place. That is not a biblical truth. It is not a biblical doctrine. The scripture tells us for all men are created in the image and the likeness of God. To support somebody in what in most cases is now proven to be gender confusion or gender illusion rather than gender dysphoria, is to confound lies, is to solidify and support fallacies, accepting them as truth. No man is born a woman. No woman is born a man. It is biologically impossible for a man to become a woman, no matter what you have taken away. It is biologically impossible for a woman to become a man, no matter what you might have added or taken away. And we as the church have got to stop and accept the fact that we love the sinners. For every one of us are sinners, fallen short of the glory of God, including me and including the woke bishops and laity and clergy that are pushing these agendas. But that doesn't mean that our sin is acceptable, and we cannot come to the living Christ and remain as sinners. We must be changed by that redemptive act of at Calvary, when Christ gave his life as a sacrifice for the sins of all men. That doesn't mean that it's an acceptance and a tolerance of everything. The church has to be inclusive. I fully agree. But it must be inclusive of people and love them, not inclusive of sin and not inclusive of all manner of ideologies that are completely opposite to what the scripture has taught us for 2 millennia.
And Bishop, you talk about sacrifice. I know for a fact that you have sacrificed so much in order to maintain your Christian message and to keep that Christian message undiluted out there. You've paid a price with your personal safety, with your finances, with your independence, your freedom, your career as a cleric. You really have been so brave and so heroic. And Bish, I salute you. More power to you. And I hope that your voice only gets louder in the months and years ahead. Might you leave us, Bishop, with your blessing this morning?
I will. Thank you, Mark, for your support. And I would just remind everybody before I offer a blessing, the infamous words of Jesus Christ found in the Gospel of John, chapter 15. For no greater love hath any man than to lay down his life for his friends. And everything I have sacrificed, I count as worthwhile for the progress of the gospel and to see people delivered in truth. And now, my brothers and sisters, I pray that the peace which passes all understanding keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and in the love of God and of his Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ, and in the sweet, blessed fellowship and intimacy of the Holy Spirit, and the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, be with you and those whom you love, both this day and always. Amen.
Amen. My thanks to Bishop Kyrian Dewar, missionary bishop with the Confessing Anglican Church. This is Talk Breakfast.
Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, it's the fight they all want to see, Fury versus Joshua. Will it happen? Well, Tyson Fury beat Marius Waltz yesterday. Anthony Joshua faces Christian Prenga this evening. He should win, so is it on? Let's get the thoughts of former European champion and expert boxing correspondent Spencer Oliver. Hi, Spencer.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm out here in Jeddah, and we've got the big fight coming up tonight, obviously. Anthony Joshua, Christian Prenga. And you're right, Mark, this is the semi-final here before we get the big fight. Tyson Fury's come through against Marius Wack. Joshua comes through against Prenga. Will we get the announcement tonight? Because we're hearing rumours that Fury could be in town. So, yeah, there's a lot of speculation at the moment. It'd be interesting to see if he turns up. But also, most importantly, we need Anthony Joshua to come through against Christian Prenga.
Yes, indeed. Of course, he's likely to win tonight, but Anthony's been through a lot in the last couple of years.
He has been through a lot in the last 6 months, for sure. Not just physically, but mentally as well. You know, the tragic circumstances back in December that he went through, losing 2 of his close friends and work colleagues as well. It's been a tough, trying time for Anthony Joshua, and now we see if that's going to affect him as he gets in the ring tonight. You know, this is a mental battle as opposed to a physical one, because really he's levels above Christian Prenga, and he should win this fight and win it easily. But under the circumstances of what he's been through, it's not a foregone conclusion.
Well, that's right, because what happened, poor Anthony, as you mentioned, just 6 months ago, survived a tragic fatal car crash in Nigeria. He suffered moderate injuries, but deeply traumatic for him. How much of an issue is that for somebody fighting in the ring with these high stakes, Spencer?
It's a massive issue. You know, boxing is 20% physical, 80% mental. And like you say, the traumatic time that he went through just 6 months ago, you don't know what scars that's left on him. It's all about the ring walk, Mark, when that ring walk goes. You know, he's used to these guys being around him in and around these fights as well. So when he does that ring walk, will those scars come back? You know, will them demons reappear? We don't know that. Anthony Joshua probably doesn't know that either. So this is a mental battle that he's going to be going through on Saturday night, and also a very emotional one as well.
Definitely. Now, Spencer, of course, you have been one of the biggest names in boxing. You've achieved so much in the sport, former European champion and all the rest of it. How hard is it to be matched against someone like Christian Prenga, who you're supposed to beat? Does that bring with it its own pressure?
That's a great question, actually, yeah, because it's very difficult to stay motivated. But Anthony Joshua's got his own reasons now for staying motivated. That's why I don't see it being an issue. But in normal circumstances, use Tyson Fury versus Marius Wack last night. Marius Wack was a guy that won 2 of his last 10. He's 40-something years of age and well past his best, well past his sell-by date. And Fury sort of laboured to a 7th round win, but he didn't look particularly good. He will look much better if the fight is made against Anthony Joshua, because it's all about motivation, getting yourself up for certain fights at certain levels. But as I say, going into this one, Joshua's talked about a demolition job, going in there and doing it. He has a purpose to get in there and do it for his friends as well as for himself. So I'm expecting to see something quite special from Anthony Joshua, quite ruthless in there tonight.
Well, that's the thing. And yes, he's supposed to beat Christian Prenga, but Prenga is no slouch. Still a big, strong, powerful man.
Absolutely. Listen, this is heavyweight boxing. Out of his 21 fights and his 20 victories, he's had 20 KOs. Forget at what level that is. He's proven that he can whack. And he will see this as his world title opportunity. This is his chance to break into the big time. Anthony Joshua is his golden ticket. And he'll go out there and he'll want to take that golden ticket. So he'll give it everything, and he'll try and give that everything early. And we've also got to remember, if Anthony Joshua goes out there and he wants to do a spectacular job, he puts himself in the firing line, which can be explosive but also very dangerous. You know, chaos creates opportunity, but you've got to be very careful.
Spencer, really quickly, Fury Joshua, when do we think it might happen, and how much money will be involved?
So we're hearing that the fight is going to be happening in November. We're hearing that Tyson Fury may be in town to announce that after the Anthony Joshua victory. The fight is signed, sealed, and we just need to find out where it's going to be delivered. Is it going to be the US? Is it going to be the UK? Eddie Hearn seems to say the contracts say we're having it in the UK. Wembley Stadium is signed in the contracts. We're also hearing that Netflix are in town. They want it in the US. It could be Madison Square Garden. We're here in Las Vegas as well. So I suppose we're only going to find those answers out tonight, straight after Anthony Joshua hopefully is victorious.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 9, top of the morning. Talk breakfast. Happy Saturday, one and all. Mark Dolan with you for a very big hour. A little bit of housekeeping for you. We're very excited about tomorrow's show. We'll be joined live by Andrew Loney, who is the royal author that brought down Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And we'll be joined live on tomorrow's show by Australia's Nigel Farage, Pauline Hanson, live on the show. But a busy hour to come. The monster manipulator, Axel Rudakubana, the man who murdered 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport, stands accused of playing games, manipulating and lying to medics and prison staff to secure a move to a comfortable psychiatric hospital. While the families of the victims are in uproar, is this the consequence of the hand-wringing officials, the nurses, the doctors, the psychiatrists, the judges, the social workers, with a pathological empathy towards these monsters? He's evil, isn't he? Don't you just lock him up and throw away the key? Why is he in the plush surroundings now of Broadmoor Mental Hospital, where it costs £300,000 annually to accommodate these folks? Meanwhile, a shocking front-page story in The Telegraph. Iran agents sneak in as channel migrants. You heard me right. The small boats crisis is being used by Iran, which is a terror state, to get agents onto those small boats and into Britain. If that doesn't wake the authorities up to this emergency, nothing will. Will we ever stop the boats? 03444991000. How bad have things got to get before the establishment, the media elite, the lanyard class wake up and realise we've got to tackle this problem, we've got to stop the boats? It's a societal disaster, it's an economic crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis, and now we know it is a national security crisis too. My phone number is 03444991000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note and let's talk. I'll get to your calls in just a moment on our open borders and the shocking news that Axel Rudakubana, one of the worst monsters of British history, is going to move to the very plush environment of a secure mental health unit. OK, folks, as always at this time on Talk Breakfast, it is Dolan's Dispatch. Another own goal from Gary Lineker, who has signed a letter with 120 fellow virtue-signalling millionaires demanding to be taxed more, 2% on wealth above 10 million, in case you're interested. Now, is this the same Gary Lineker who fought HMRC over a £4.9 million tax bill and won? The same Gary Lineker who filled his boots as the BBC's highest paid star on £1.35 million a year, funded by a licence fee that pensioners can be hauled before the courts for not paying. No one's stopping Gary paying. The Treasury has a donation page. He could overpay on his return this morning. But that was never the point. The point was to signal his virtue, right, and get the approval of his lovey friends in North London. It's the same reason he likened the government's language on small boats to 1930s Germany, the same reason he waved away the horrors of October the 7th as the Hamas thing, the same reason he shared a video about Zionism illustrated with a rat, which he'd later deleted and which ended his BBC career. Ultimately, a wealth tax is a terrible idea. It's been tried and abandoned across the developed world because the wealthy are portable. They will take their millions to Monaco, Dubai or Singapore, and the rest of us cover the shortfall, pensioners included. And don't take my word for it. In 1990, a dozen developed nations levied a wealth tax. Today, it's a handful of countries that are doing the same. Austria, Denmark, Germany, Finland and the Netherlands, also Sweden, have all abandoned efforts at a wealth tax. Sweden in 2007, having worked out that the pittance it raised wasn't worth the capital bolting out of the door, France clung on for the longest and paid dearly. Its wealth tax scrapped in less than 2% of receipts, whilst an estimated 12,000 millionaires packed their bags in a single year. Even woke Emmanuel Macron of France, no poster boy for the low tax right, tore it up in 2018. And Norway, which cranked up its levy in 2022, more of the super rich fled in that 1 year than in the previous 13 combined. Sorry, folks, it does not work. So there you are. You have the facts. And how ironic that old Gary Lineker should be the face of this ridiculous campaign. For a man who made a fortune selling crisps, Gary Lineker has a remarkable chip on his shoulder. What a spud. 0344 499 1000. Let's take a call now. Miranda is in Cumbria. And Miranda, very good to have you on the show. Your reaction to the news that Axel Rudakubana, the Southport triple murderer, has been moved to a comfortable psychiatric unit.
And I think, sorry?
Oh, yes, we've got you. You're live on Talk, Miranda.
Oh, right. Well, I think it's disgusting. And I also think that with regards to his visiting times, I mean, it's basically a hospital, isn't it? So will he be able to have visitors whenever he wants? Because if you Google it, it looks like they have a virtually open visiting policy where you have to book an appointment to see your loved one in there within 3 days. The other thing is, what I'm really concerned about is that did Shabana Mahmood and Wes Streeting, were they aware of this while they were guffawing after Andy Burnham just being voted in the gardens of number 10 Downing Street? Because if they did, that's an even worse look, really, isn't it? Because in her position and his position now, they really should have known.
Well, I agree. And I think, Miranda, if you look at open borders and how relaxed the establishment are about illegals coming into the country, and this morning we learn Iranian terrorists, those who govern us, they don't care about our safety.
No, not at all. I mean, the fact that Shabana Mahmood was on the beaches in Greece saying refugees welcome, it basically says everything. And I don't believe a word she says. And I think everything that comes out of her mouth is guff, basically. But essentially, they will have known about Axel Rudakubana, and it does look vile that they stood there laughing. And I mean, where have his parents been they've been resettled somewhere, haven't they? So maybe they're his parents will be able to go and visit him on a regular basis. It's appalling. It's terrible.
Well, that's right. And the other thing is that putting him in Broadmoor, which is a secure psychiatric hospital, will deprive somebody else that may have mental health issues from being there. And this is an environment that's not appropriate for a triple murderer, a truly evil man. They've got a cafe, Miranda, a hairdresser's. They do pottery classes. They've got a classroom. They've got open spaces. And they're not in a cell. As Peter Blexley, ex-cop, told me earlier in the show, they're in a comfortable room.
No, it's disgraceful. Why do they not realise he might attack somebody else in there? And how many people are going to be watching him? Unless he's in a padded cell in a straitjacket, he's still going to be a danger. And if he won't take his medication orally, are they allowed to give him injections? You know, to calm him down, might be against his human rights. So you may find that he does something atrocious in the hospital environment.
And Miranda, how will this make the families of the victims feel? Well, they're on record as saying that they're very unhappy about this move.
I think it'd be devastating for them. They'll never see their children again. And this gentleman, well, he's not a gentleman, is he? He's a monster.
No.
He's going to have all mod cons in there. And like he said, he'll be able to have his benefits. He'd be able to use a tuck shop, all these things. It's just disgraceful. It's horrendous.
I mean,
really.
we had Ben Habib on the show earlier, Miranda, and we were saying that the big problem, I think, facing the country, we know that the economy is absolutely shot to pieces. I get that. We've got the highest energy costs in the developed world. We've got lots of structural problems. But I think one of the biggest issues, Miranda, is just the culture of the country, the attitudes of the authorities towards open borders towards crime. You know, like, for example, if you look at the Rudakubana, I think that he's been the beneficiary of hand-wringing social workers and psychiatrists and nurses and doctors who feel empathy towards this guy.
Yes, I do. I agree with you.
I think that's going on, Miranda. I'll give you an example, right? The head teacher who said that Rudakubana was a worry was told that she was racially profiling. She was told to shut up and go away and be quiet.
Well, the thing is, when these people who their names should be published, and with regard to such as the killer who killed those lovely the student and the caretaker, they've now, is it a corporate manslaughter?
Yeah.
Charge against them. I do think that the same thing should be brought against social services, the police who knew, and also against his parents as well. Something should be done.
Well, they told the authorities were clear that Colakane should be jailed, and it was decided. This is the Nottingham triple murderer. He was decided he should not be locked up in a secure institution because there are too many black men in such a setting already. I mean, this is at the heart of it. It's cultural. It's wokery, Miranda.
It is. It's complete lunacy. Like with everything, with DEI, it's everything. Everybody should be treated the same. There should be consistency within the way everybody is being treated, and quite clearly it hasn't. And this has been out there in the press, and there should be more. There should be more discussed. But essentially, the Labour Party just sit back and they want to ignore it. It's absolutely vile.
And if they
go on, do something, there might be more interest and there might be support of the Labour Party. But with regard to Andy Burnham, like, he hasn't even spoken about the people coming across on the mega dinghies or whatever. But essentially, they're aware and they just don't want to do anything. But I wonder why they don't want to do anything, and who made the decision about Axel Rudakubana going into a hospital. When was the decision made? This should have been discussed. Made available within the public arena.
And you're right about the Home Secretary. The Home Secretary will definitely have been informed, and she ought to have said... Yeah, and she ought to have said no. And by the way, you should be co-hosting this show with me, Miranda, because you're so right to mention the mega dinghies, right? Packed vessels, a mega dinghy, right, carrying 165 migrants has crossed the Channel, setting a new record for the number of arrivals on a single small boat. And now we find out, Miranda, that a number of the people on these small boats are agents working on behalf of Iran.
Yeah, it leaves people speechless and demoralised, and it's not a very good record to have. It's like record breakers, but on a sick level.
I know. Do you not think terrorists on the boats is enough to, like, wake up the establishment and make them think maybe it's bad?
Well, you would think so. And if it were any of their children or their family who were affected, but they live in beautiful areas. The next time a load of people come across the mega dinghy, put them in the Cotswolds, where all the left-wing actors and actresses have gone to live now in their beautiful mansions. Let's plonk them there.
Well, Miranda, when Israel... Yeah, go on.
Yes. So there might be more publicity about it when they start being affected by it.
I agree. Let's have some houses of multiple occupancy in Islington and in Hampstead. Miranda, before I let you go, what a brilliant call. You sound quite frantic. Are you out walking the dog? What's happening?
I'm walking the dog and he's dragging me up a hill at the moment.
Well, I tell you something. But you know what? You leave me breathless, Miranda.
Oh, thank you for that.
Because I'll tell you for why. What you say represents the feelings of the vast majority of people in this country. It's not a fringe view. Your head is exploding at the idea that the Southport triple murderer is now in a hospital wing, and that we've got open borders and the establishment are okay with the fact that some of those people are agents working on behalf of Iran. We're living in a clown world. Miranda, enjoy that walk. Good luck with that hill. Jeff's in Hastings. Jeffrey, welcome to Talk Breakfast, sir.
Oh, hello, Mark. Hello, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to pay tribute to your guest this morning, Ben Habib.
Yeah.
He has hit the nail more than on the head. He has sunk it with his remarks, and I don't know why he hasn't put himself up for Prime Minister, because with a man who talks like that with guts, he's the one. The other guy, I can't even remember his name. Who's the Prime Minister now? I've forgotten his name.
Burnham. It's easy to forget, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, mate. They're so insignificant to me. I'll just brush them out of my mind. He is absolutely an empty vessel. He's got nothing in it. He's like a car without an engine.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, apart from that, get Banner in number 10, please. The thing about bringing back the death penalty, yes, absolutely. It doesn't mean it's going to be effective, because it might deter the killers and that. And as for this guy going into a nice, what's that mental institution?
It's Broadmoor, which is low population, lots of space, and it's got hairdressers and a cafe, yeah.
Oh, how lovely. I can't even afford that, mate. Mind you, I'm half bald, but, I get half the price, But it's just, I said before on your show, Mark, I know you remember me. I am watching you on telly now, by the way. You've got a nice smile sometimes.
Give you a wave.
But, I did say before that the enemy is within, and I think we all knew that anyway. And like you say, the men on the boats are filled up with men. And I've said before, the enemy are within. And if we don't want to go to war, just stay behind the door, and as soon as they come, sort them out. But it's getting so out of hand, mate. There's so much people want to say. I'd have to be on the show with you all morning to have my say, but I know there's other people waiting. But you've got to stop them boats, bring the Navy in, and then start clearing the country out. And the last thing I wanted to say, Mark, well, not the last thing, but one of the last things is that, we bring them over here, or we let them in on the goodness of our heart to have a better life, and this is how they repay us.
Too right. Jeff, you're a rock of sense, and I do remember you, and thank you for watching, and call me again soon. I love all the calls, all the texts, all the voice notes. We'll get to more of those shortly. By the way, comedy legend Tommy Cannon is on the show this morning. He's live on stage this evening. We'll talk about his amazing career very shortly. Plus, the brilliant Steve Denyer from Virgin Radio with another retro rewind. More to come. Talk Breakfast.
Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Listening to Talk Breakfast, lovely to have your company. The Duchess of Sussex has released photographs of the family. Of course, that's the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, Archie and Lily, with photographs that appear to show their UK return and images of the children at Althorp, which is, of course, the estate of the late Diana. Let's get reaction from Rupert Bell, Talk's royal correspondent. Hello, Rupert.
Good morning, Mark.
Rupert, what do you make of these latest images, courtesy of Meghan Markle, in regard to the Sussex's UK return?
Well, once again, it's trying to, I think, take the shine away from the Waleses, who obviously George's birthday was recently, and all the pictures of him, and also proving that they are welcome back in the UK by showing that Charles Spencer, Harry's uncle, was happy to have them to stay. But where's the privacy? Because I thought they didn't want pictures of their children splashed all over social media, and they believe that, well, although that facts don't back up that, because they say people should be protected by social media. But once again, they're using their children to create this image of happy families. Now, it may have been a very happy trip, but why do we feel the need to endlessly see pictures? And obviously the element of going to see Diana's gravesite there and going to Althorp, it's also saying, look, we are welcome back in the UK. That's what it's out to try and prove from the Sussex's perspective.
Well, I think that's a really correct overview, Rupert. We hear so much about the privacy of Archie and Lily, and we hear about concerns in regard to their security. Probably not the best idea to publish photographs of them and create interest in them.
Yeah, and they produce these photographs which are actually slightly a freaky way. Well, all we get is back views. Whereas at least when the Waleses, that they're controlled, you know, we saw official photographs of George when he turned 13. Absolutely right. It's done as a sort of, in a way, part official, because
Correct.
Obviously George is the future king, so it is sort of timeline of his progression into adulthood, and then ultimately he will succeed to the throne. So that's all part of a sort of historical narrative. But for the Sussexes, it's a different narrative. It's trying to prove, look, we are still relevant over here. And yet again, I just find the images just a little bit freaky in a way. They don't seem natural. Everything photographed from behind and everything, yet we've got to see it like that. And okay, they may have been going to the memorial, but what's the big plan? You know, for them, is there going to be some documentary about Diana? And this will be all part of that, showing them having that intimate moment. The visit was a private one, yet the Sussexes are still doing their best to show, look, you may not have seen me, but I was here. And look, I am welcome with elements of the royal family. Now, what the rest of the royal family think of him, the Sussexes going to Charles Spencer's house, I don't know. But here he's the uncle. He obviously gave that famous speech at Diana's funeral. But it's not as if his private life has been completely straightforward through over the years. I mean, I think he's on his fourth wife. So he's not a straightforward character, but at least it is something that can be, you know, seen from the Sussex's point of view. Look, we're welcome back in UK by some people.
Now, as you've reported to us previously, Rupert, the Sussexes were under strict orders on the part of the King not to publish any photographs of the Highgrove House afternoon tea. No interviews, no details, no photos. And therefore, this little cache of images is significant, isn't it? It demonstrates, I would suggest, Rupert, that Meghan Markle couldn't resist publishing evidence of their UK return. She needed to get photographs out there of the Sussexes on British soil.
Yeah, because their brand is a busted flush at the moment. So they need, their brand depends on their connection with the royal family. well, Harry did his work when he came over here at the beginning of the month. Okay, the court case, I think, probably scuppered Meghan's plans because suddenly, you know, it was a bad week from a news perspective for Harry. Yes, it went well for him Invictus Games. He looked relaxed, and hopefully it has helped to create interest in next year's Invictus Games, which I certainly applaud. But actually, from a Meghan perspective, it wasn't the week she wanted. There she is under the cover of darkness, having to go to Highgrove for an hour, scootling back to Ultrup, where presumably that's where they stayed. It's not a surprise they stayed there. You know, it seems a perfectly normal place for them to go. But now they're sort of trying to monetize it. Look at playing this happy family environment, that sort of cheesy photograph of them in a restaurant and pictures from Portugal. It all just seems a little contrived and unnecessary. Why do they feel the need? Presumably, yes, there will be lots of people looking at it, but it's all very needy, is my assessment of what she is doing.
And how do you think Archie and Lily will feel about the fact that they're being made celebrities by their parents? When they become grown-ups, could there be some resentment, a reckoning, given the fact that the Sussexes have clearly started to make the children part of their brand?
Well, that, history will tell. But if Harry should be aware of this, because one of his beefs was the fact that he was in this goldfish bowl and he found it difficult. But actually, his words don't, you know, his actions don't back up his words and sentiment, because he is using his children. He shouldn't be using his children for anything if that's what he believes, to protect his children. So maybe, I don't know, you know, what it will be like for Archie and Lily in 10 years' time, or whatever the situation is. But it just seems rather unnecessary and desperate in many ways, because nothing's worked for her brand recently, as we know, although she's managed to get a nomination for a daytime TV, a lifestyle TV program for an Emmy Award. That surprised me that she got that, but no, there we go. No accounting for taste. But, you know, what else is going right for her brand? So that is the problem. So if the only thing she's got now is look at me, look at us, we're a happy family, we're getting on with our life, and look, we are welcome still in the UK.
Rupert, it's always such a delight to have you on the show. Have you got Ascot today?
I'm going for the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes, a race that was set up for the Festival of Britain in 1951, and I first went to the race which was dubbed the Race of the Century, featuring Grundy and Bustino, when I was a spotty 16-year-old in 1975. You can do the maths, then you know how old I am, Mark.
Well, you are that rare thing. You're a man that's good at least two, maybe three things. I've got no doubt you're a dutiful husband to the very fragrant Mrs. Bell. You're an elite-level royal journalist and, of course, a top sports journalist as well, and commentator across boxing, racing, golf, you name it. Ascot's going to be good today. I want you to make a promise, though, to me, which is, because it's quite warm out there, do you guarantee that you won't become dehydrated this afternoon, Rupert?
Well, I'm going to work with a lovely homemade smoothie made by the fragrant Mrs. Bell.
That won't do it. Rupert, I'm thinking of something far stronger than smoothies.
No, well, I've got to drive home, so I'm a very good boy. And it's all work, no play for me, as you know, Mark. So
I'm glad to hear that. All right, well, you'll be off the sauce, but will you have a keen eye on the young fillies?
Yeah. Move on, Mark. Goodbye. It's lovely to talk to you.
Rupert Bell is Talk's royal correspondent. Rupert, enjoy Ascot, and let's hope that that race goes your way. There you go. Always fun to have Rupert on the show. What an outrageous pair those Sussexes are. Lots more to get through. 9:32. Next up, comedy legend Tommy Cannon. Don't go anywhere.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, Cannon and Ball were among the most popular double acts in the history of British entertainment. And I'm delighted to say that Tommy Cannon is back on stage tonight in an audience with Tommy Cannon. So excited to chat to Tommy about this, his life in showbiz. But let's hear that genius double act in action back in the day. They had it all. They could dance, they could sing, and most importantly, they were both extraordinarily funny. I'm delighted to say that Tommy Cannon, comedy legend, joins us on Talk Breakfast. Morning, Tommy.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm buzzing to have you on. Such a privilege to have you on our show. And congratulations on the show tonight, an audience with Tommy Cannon. You still got the appetite. You still got the hunger to perform.
Yeah. It's just been, since I decided to start doing it, if you like, it's been fantastic because it's allowed me to keep the legacy going, if you like. There's so many great and funny stories about me and Bob, and I talk about it for ages and ages. And then the second half, of course, we're going to questions and answers. And I mean, it's just so good and heartwarming. I really enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mark. Yeah, sure. Now and again, I look to my left and think, where is he? But it's great. It's great.
Well, the thing is, Tommy, you're a born entertainer. You love the audience. You love to make people laugh. And that's never going to go away, is it?
No, never. No. I mean, there's so much going on at the moment as well. I mean, you won't know this, Mark, but I'm in a movie. It's it's quite a rude title of the film. It's called Tits Up.
Oh, this is golden. That is a hilarious name. I won't repeat it, but I'll be watching it.
But what's the name? It's lovely because it's about ladies' breast cancer.
Oh,
and
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's a good cause.
Oh, it's a great cause, yeah, and I'm in that. I've got a couple of parts in that as well, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, so everything's lovely. Lovely.
I'm so glad. And you must, when you go about your daily life, you must get stopped non-stop, Tommy. But people in the street want a picture with you. You must get a lot of love from the public.
Yeah, they are lovely, and I mean, I can go into a supermarket and. You can see people, if it's a husband and wife, you can say, is that Tommy? Is that Tommy Cannon from Cannon and Ball? And they all do that sort of thing. And it's really lovely and heartwarming. It is.
I mean, look, I just will never tire of reminding my audience, Tommy, how massive you guys were. And at one point, you had 15, 20 million people watching your show.
Yeah, 20 million people. And I mean, Bob and I didn't know. But David Bell, who's now passed away, bless him, he came into the dressing room one day and he said, right, boys, he said, do you know how many viewers you're getting? And we said, no. He said, you're getting 20 million viewers on a Saturday night. He said, it's absolutely fantastic. And we had that for, a good 12 years.
Oh, it was extraordinary, the sustained success, because of, I think, a lot of things, Tommy, some brilliant gags, and there was more to you guys than that. There was the dancing, there was the singing, the chemistry between you, and I guess at the heart of it, Tom, friendship.
Oh, yeah, God blimey, yeah. I loved him to bits. He was just... I suppose when we first met in the welding factory and... you were first person to speak to me, if you like, out of 500 men. I mean, it was ridiculous from then on because he walked in, he said, you all right, cock? And I went, yeah, I'm all right, mate. And as he walked away, I thought, you know what? that's a funny little beggar. And the rest is history, because he just bothered me and mithered me to be part of this double act with him, until eventually I said, okay, let's give it a go. And the rest is history.
So I didn't know that Bobby was the driving force in the early days. If you look at the fact that you met at the welding factory, you struck up a friendship, then you performed, and I think it was kind of musical, then it became comedy. It feels like, Tom, it was meant to be.
Yes, that's what I think a lot of things in life are meant to be, but when I think about me rejecting Bob, I don't want to be part of a double act. I'm not interested in it. Please leave me alone and all. Until eventually he said, right, I tell you what, get a set of drums, I'll get a piano player and I'll sing up the front. And I said, and where we're going to work? He said, oh, we'll do weddings. And I went, weddings? Anyway, we started with weddings, and that was it. Piano player said after about 3 months or 4 months or something, said, oh, I've had enough. He said, I don't like being away from home, so I'm going back to get a day job. And that left me and Bob, so that was the beginning of the double act. And I mean, the rest is history, but there's so many things before we actually made it onto TV that are so funny, because how we kept going, I'll never know, because we got paid off. We got, we were moaning and groaning with families. We'd got children. We weren't making enough money. And I sometimes look back and think, how the heck did we do all that? And just kept going.
Well, it wasn't, it wasn't overnight success, was it, Tom? How many years would you say you were plugging away in the clubs before things happened for you?
Oh, must have been at least close to 15 years.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And I mean, there were some places which were good. I mean, we auditioned, when I think back, we auditioned for at least 8 or 9 major summer seasons and never got one.
Wow.
Never got one. And we come off stage and say, hey, that audition, we're good, we've done well, this will work now. No.
So rejected at auditions, 15 years in smoke-filled clubs. You really, you walked the hard yards. Was it good training, that 15 years live?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, I suppose when I look back at it, and I remember the day coming back from Newcastle or Sunderland, somewhere it was, and we'd been paid off. And I said to Bob, I said, listen, we can't keep doing this, mate. He said, no, you're right. He said, we've got work in men's clubs to do. He said, if we get paid off at one of them, we'll go back to welding. We didn't get paid off at one of them. So once again, it's meant to be.
So meant to be.
Our lives were already sort of planned for us.
And the comic timing you guys had was unbelievably good. The material was always strong. And then your craft, the two of you, your craft as performers. And Tommy, I'm not the biggest fan of this idea, the straight man. For me, that does not accurately describe Cannon and Ball. It was a double act. And for me, you were both hilarious. Did you ever feel like you were labelled the straight man because of the persona of Bobby with the braces and all that?
Yeah, of course you do. But from that day to this day, I don't really know what a straight man is.
No.
You say, you're the straight man, so you're supposed to just stand there, be straight, and just turn your head and say, yeah, no. I don't get it.
Look at you and Bobby, I think it's like Lennon and McCartney. You cannot separate the two. It's magic. Right. But I will say, Tommy, until I'm blue in the face, that, you are a hilarious man, and your dry wit as a foil to Bobby was golden. It was golden. And
I agree.
Your mischievous humour. And, I think I've always had to remind you, there was one particular sketch where you sang this song called Shaboom Shaboom.
Yeah.
And you're singing it so beautifully, like Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin. Bobby's ruining it. It was comedy gold. It stayed with me. I must have seen that when I was about 8 years of age.
Oh, God. Thank you.
Shaboom, shaboom.
Yeah. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la, shaboom, shaboom.
Now, listen, tonight you're going to be on stage. Tell me about the show. Where's it happening?
It's happening at a converted barn in Southampton.
Lovely.
It's a beautiful place now, and I'm going down there, and my son Luke is coming with me, with my wife, and what my son does, he goes on stage, introduces me, and we just have a little bit of chat going on and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Well, yeah, Luke has become like your producer and manager. Yeah. He's a brilliant guy, and he's very proud of his old man, and he's making sure that you remain a performer. Can I ask you, Tom, you're going to go on stage tonight, and I guarantee you're going to bring the house down. You're going to have people crying with laughter. You're going to fill their hearts with memories. There's going to be a bit of music, right? What are your emotions when you're on stage and you get that big laugh and you entertain people? How does it make you feel?
Oh, it just puts me on another world. I mean, it really does. To think that, you know, I've lost my pal and the audience has still welcomed me to talk about the legendary things that I mean, and most things that I talk about, of course, the audience don't know about, because it was years back when all this sort of stuff was going on. So of course they don't know. And I mean, it's just lovely. I've built up a wonderful story with clips on a screen on stage, showing stuff that me and Bob did and everything like that. And it's such a warm-hearted show. People go out, and I mean, and I've got a new CD out now. I've just got a CD. I've done a CD. So and my book's out. So yeah, so I'm selling them as well at the places where I work.
Well, that's exciting, because I know the book is called This Is Me, which won rave reviews. What's on the CD?
CD is there's six. There's either 6 or 8 songs. I think there's 6 on it, and I decided I'd do those 6. And when I went into the recording studio, the lad said, "Look, Tom, we've got these songs to do, so I've put down 2 days to do them." I said, "Oh, okay." I did them in 2 hours. He said, "I can't believe it." He said, "You've done these songs in 2 hours." He said, I programmed it for 2 days.
Yeah, well, it's because you're a pro of the old school. Tommy, not only are you a comic genius, but you're still a handsome devil. Can I just add that?
Thank you very much.
You really are. You were always very suave in that double act, and you've still got it. And that audience tonight are so lucky to have you. So you've got to get that book, right? This Is Me, Tommy Cannon. Get the CD and enjoy the show. The first of many. And I can't wait for the movie, which I'm not going to repeat the name of, Tommy. It's gonna break the box office, that movie, let me tell you.
Oh, and Mark, I've also got a documentary on the way as well.
Oh, listen, we all need to see that, because it's time to place Cannonball in showbiz and entertainment history, so they are never forgotten. Tommy, you're my hero. An honour to have you on the show. Good luck tonight. Break a leg, big man.
Rock on, Mark.
There you go. We are not. How do you follow that? You can't. This is talk.
Prime Minister in 4 years. Blimey. And, well, look, we want him to succeed. But will this one be any different? Andy Burnham, the new head honcho. 1 minute he was Mayor of Greater Manchester. What, a month and a bit ago, he wasn't even an MP. The next, he's holding keys to number 10.
You know what? I'm trying so hard not to be cynical about it all, but I'm trying to keep, not hope. I'm sick of hearing about hope already. He's only been in government for 5 minutes, but I want them to succeed because I want Britain to succeed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:50 Talk Breakfast, and I've got to say that I've really enjoyed Virgin Breakfast this week because in for Chris Evans has been our good friend Steve Denyer. Steve, have you had fun?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. It's been great to see you in the corridor.
And do you get all of the Chris Evans treatment? Do you get the chauffeur-driven limousine?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. He turns up even earlier for me. The makeup, the guests. We've got Davina McCall coming in on Monday. Actually, we've got Andrew Ridgeley from Wham, because there's a great new documentary about when Wham went to China. They were the first kind of Western band to go to China. So he's going to come in and tell me about that. I think it's on Wednesday or Thursday. So another week in for Chris. If you can listen in, 6:30 to 10.
It'll be great. So you get the chauffeur-driven limousine, which I believe is Bentley.
Yeah.
You get the dancing girls. What about the fans? You know, the groupies and all of that. There's a bit.
I have to literally kind of part them out of the way. They have to make space for me as I enter into the news building. It's all go, Mark. I love it.
Listen, I'm very looking forward to another week of Virgin Breakfast, and we of course have got a very important celebration.
This is a special one. I'm determined.
Wednesday was a special day.
It was. I had a significant birthday. We'll get to it in a moment. I want to start. By the way, have a guess. See if you can guess this year by some of the clues I've got for you. History was made in this year. Let me take you back to January of this year when flights changed forever. Look at this.
By the crowd ready to watch Concorde move out away from the terminal building there. The pilot on this inaugural flight to the United States of America was Captain Calvert, and he was actually the co-pilot on the world's first supersonic scheduled service to Bahrain, which was the inaugural flight for Concorde last January. It's quite a large plane, 62 metres long, but rather a narrow wingspan, I thought, 26 metres only.
And here we are, we're coming down for the takeoff now.
Well, look, that's wonderful footage of the Concorde, which was a collaboration between the French and the British, is that right?
Yes, that's right. So the first two flights, we had a BA flight and an Air France flight. The BA one went to Bahrain, and the Paris one, the French one, went to, I think, Rio. And then later on in the year, the legendary London to New York flight started. And do you remember there was that thing that you could leave here and arrive there before you left here?
Amazing, because of the time zones. What was it, about 5 hours or something?
3 hours.
Three?
Just over 3 hours.
London to New York in 3 hours.
3 hours. That first flight cost £672. That was back in this year. That's the equivalent of about, I'd say, several £100,000. Several thousand pounds.
It's an amazing thing, and I'm amazed that it is no longer active as a service and it's not been replaced.
No, never. I mean, there's rumours about flights being, and aeroplanes being tested at the moment. I think it was two things. It was 9/11 and it was the fact that we had that crash as well, the Concorde crash in Paris, and things just changed within 2 years, actually, between, 9/11 happening in 2003, it just stopped.
But it's so rare for the human story that you would make progress like that, London, New York in 3 hours, and then actually go backwards and lose that option.
Yeah, it's a bit like us visiting the moon, isn't it? That kind of thing. It happened, and then nothing has ever been able to kind of get close to that achievement.
No, that first Concorde flight, they were quite brave, those passengers, don't you think?
Absolutely. But what a thing to
it's
say.
New technology.
Did you ever travel on Concorde?
No, I didn't. I'll tell you who did, though.
Who?
Phil Collins.
Yes. Why?
Live Aid.
Yes.
Because he managed to be in a couple of time zones. That he performed at Live Aid in London.
Yep.
Then flies to Philadelphia, I think.
Amazing,
For the
isn't
same
it?
show.
And managed to do it within the same show. Incredible stuff. The other really, really famous thing about this particular year is a certain heat wave that has sprung up and has been in our headlines this year. I was haven't given away the year because people are comparing this year with that year. Anyway, take a look at this.
Heath and forest fires suddenly became almost commonplace in August. From the New Forest to the Wiltshire Downs, from the farms of Gloucestershire to the Quantock Hills, the story was the same. The level of the lake has risen by a miserable 3 inches, and all over the West Country the story is the same, with reservoirs 2/3 empty. Water for a cup of tea, to flush the loo, or to wash the baby's nappies. It all had to come from a tap in the street.
I'm not one for the heat at all, I'm afraid. I find the coolest place in the house and stay there.
19... Oh,
here we are. Come on, you nearly did it. This is so hard.
Because actually the year, it's literally...
It's ingrained, isn't it?
It's how you quote that hot year.
Yes. The interesting thing, so what they had in this year is 15 consecutive days with temperatures above 32 degrees. Now, we haven't had that yet, but we've had... It's kind of been a broken picture. However, we've got over 37 degrees this year.
Yeah.
But there's still space. You know, within the next 7 days, it's going to go back up to 37 degrees. We might... I think collectively, if you put together all the heat wave days, we've got a hotter year this year than this particular year we're talking about.
So exciting.
So watch out for it. Massive movie of the year was a real surprise. Sylvester Stallone writes the movie Rocky, OK? So he writes it within 3 days after watching Muhammad Ali. He wants to be in it. All the movie studios are going, like, we don't want you in it. However, we will buy it. But he said, no, I want to be in it. So he got his own way, and it's a really cheap movie. It took 3.5...
Incredible movie, created a franchise, done on a shoestring. I believe that when they filmed it, they didn't ask permission from the authorities where they were filming. They just got the camera
That's it, they just did it. And that's why it was almost made on a shoestring. $1 million, if that. And it made $200 million worldwide. And it beat Robert De Niro in, you know, the Taxi movie. Incredible. It won all the awards as well. So, and it started Sylvester Stallone's massive movie career. There were more Rocky movies. He became a household name, huge in this year. Also, the year that punk properly started. Now, I'm looking at you. You were a Sex Pistols fan.
Of course I am. More pistol than sex.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. There's some great footage, actually, of the very first Sex Pistols gig. It was in February this year. The late, great Derek Jarman took it. It was in London, and they obviously they had a meteoric rise. If you're watching us on TV at the moment, you see the grainy footage. All of a sudden, Anarchy in the UK was released. Do you remember that controversy when they went on the show? It was on ITV. It was Bill Grundy, wasn't it?
Yes.
And they were the first kind of, you know, punk stars on TV to be swearing. They shocked the nation. Richard Branson couldn't believe his luck when he signed them, and they became huge. It was all against anti-establishment, wasn't it, behaviour?
It was, and it made the easy-listening artists like Sinatra very dated all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, there was a new movement. People often say it's a bit like, you know, the Britpop thing in the 90s, when suddenly you had these new bands that could play proper music, and there was the attitude and the swagger. It was also the year, OK, here we go, I was born, I turned 50 on Wednesday. Do you want to see some baby pictures?
Let's have some
watching talk?
baby pictures of Steve Denyer.
We'll flash them all up.
You were a handsome devil.
Well, this is me in an incubator, because apparently I was a diva when I was born. No one was allowed to get even near me. And there I am with Mum and Dad.